What up, nerds, and welcome to another twisty episode of Straight Chilling, the weekly horror movie review show where you chill and we kill, slice, dice, and chop up yet another horror movie. My name is Bob. I'll be your host for the evening. This is episode number 312, recorded Monday, March 29th, 2021. Tonight, we're going to be talking about The Sixth Sense. Before we get into it, let me introduce everyone else on the show. First up, calling in from Washington, D.C., we got our boy Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, man?
Hello, gentlemen.
What's going on, gentlemengs and ladydangs? I don't know. What's the feminine of that? Did we ever figure that out?
Womangs.
Femang? Womangs, of course.
Femangs?
Okay. Femangs. Femoids. That's what the fucking incels call it. Let's not adopt that one. Yeah, hi. That's the longest way to say hi ever.
Hello. Howdy do, everyone.
Everyone.
We're happy to have you here, Randy. Next up, calling in from the Saxonville, Florida, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
What up, it's your boy Spruce Willis Stains. That's my fairy name. Always has been, always will be.
Always. Everybody should
When
have
you
a
say
fairy
fairy,
name.
I mean, you're talking about like Fern Gully, right?
Dude,
that's where we're at.
there was one event me and Bob went to. It was very proper, and somebody was giving a very important speech, but they introduced it in a way. It was like, hey, my name's Jessica, but my fairy name is blah blah blah, and I was like, dude, my fairy name is Spruce Willis, and that's been my fairy name ever since.
Well, nobody knows why, but okay.
Spruce Willis, baby.
Last but not least, joining us on the podcast once again, let's give a warm welcome back to the show, Danielle. How are you doing, Danielle?
Hello, I'm good. I don't have a fairy name, but
Yet.
if I had a fairy name, I want it to be something to do with Rocky Horror Picture Show. So someone make it up for me.
Ooh.
Okay.
Anybody.
I don't know.
At the end of this show, you'll have a new fairy name.
All right.
It's going to be abundantly clear if we try to do that how not comedians we are. So let's give us some time on that one. We ain't improv stars over here.
Yeah,
We've got a little while.
We'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Danielle, thanks so much for sitting with us again. And where are you from? What are you doing? You do a lot of spooky things, and we want to know what they are. Why don't you inform the people?
I do some spooky things. Well, I'm from the Bible Belt, so that's spooky enough.
Yes.
I'm in Missouri, and it sucks. But on the interwebs world, I'm from Ghoulish Media. I do some corresponding. And I actually, this is new and fun and fresh and exciting. I'm going to be having a little section on ghoulishmedia.com on found footage movies because I love them and they're my favorite. And I'm working on that right now. So it's secret, top secret. But yeah, that's what I do. I'm pretty much the best thing that's come out of Ghoulish Media, if I'm honest.
Oh, wow.
Agreed.
So much better
Claiming
than
that golden ring. I love it.
Better than that Anthony dude that walks around strutting his stuff. So much better.
Yeah. I'm trying to fist fight Anthony, if you can't tell. So.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, let's see that showdown. That's a good fundraiser in and of itself.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks again. I'm looking forward to your found footage column there. I'll be checking it out for sure.
Yeah, I don't think found footage gets enough love, so I'm going to give it all of it.
Do it.
I agree.
Before we get into the main event, let's tackle some housekeeping really quick. This is your final reminder that our April poll pick is currently posted on our Patreon website. If you support us at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this April. The theme for April is Frights of Spring. In the movies, you can vote between our Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1978, Troll 2, and The Wicker Man from 1973.
Bob,
Juice.
how those numbers
Juice.
looking?
Ask Rob about the numbers.
Ask me your question.
I'm working on this fairy name. What do you want from me?
Yeah, you are.
It's important stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, The Wicker Man is still ahead, but just by a single vote. Body Snatchers is right there, and Troll 2 is a couple behind. So,
all right.
Yeah, you got a couple days left to vote. Make sure you get all your votes in before April 1st, and we'll see what we're talking about.
We'll know in 3 days.
We will, very soon.
It's that sprang time. All right.
Sprang the mang. You're welcome. That's pretty much all we got going on over with Patreon. You got anything, Juice, going on YouTube, Twitch?
I don't think anything new. I can't remember if I mentioned it last week or not, so I'll just mention it again. There is a new video game review up on YouTube. That is for Little Nightmares 2. That's youtube.com/Straight Chilling Podcast. And if you didn't know, we have some exclusive content up there, one of which is our horror video games. Sometimes we do playthroughs. Sometimes we do actual reviews of the game. So if you're interested in Little Nightmares Deuce, you can check out some gameplay and a full video game review up there on our channel. Yeah. Danielle, have you played that yet?
Oh, yes. We played that in one sitting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a pretty short little guy. Yeah. It's pretty good.
It's so good. The whole series
your
is
runtime?
good. About 5 hours, I'd say.
It's about 5
That's a nice
hours
tight package. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Toy package.
Yeah, each level takes about like 45 minutes ish. Yeah.
Yeah.
to an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a solid game, so you can check that out if you're interested in horror gaming. Other than that, I believe my house is clean.
I got one more thing to drop real quick. We just released a new episode of Let's Get Physical Media last Tuesday. We talk about our February pickups, which there were a lot of solid choices, some solid cuts in there. So if you are interested in Blu-rays, 4Ks, collecting physical media at all, you can check out Let's Get Physical Media anywhere you get your podcasts. Slam us into your ear holes. That's it. I believe our house is officially clean.
House be clean.
This house is clean.
And now, a word from our sponsors. Hey, do you guys love film?
Oh, yeah.
Supposedly.
Well, so do we. And that's why we have to recommend Ghoulish. This is a movie website for the film fan in all of us. Catch up on the latest in horror, kaiju, science fiction, and more with news and in-depth film perspectives that you won't find anywhere else. Don't miss out and be sure to join the community of film fans today at ghoulishmedia.com. Danielle, I don't know, is there anything you want to add to that other than that you're going to be writing a really dope found footage column?
There are going to be some cool interviews coming up with some horror folks and some sci-fi folks. So
Nice.
I know, some people like that stuff.
Hell yeah. Cool.
Not us.
It's all right, I guess.
What do I give a shit what people who make things say?
Who gave this girl the floor?
Hey, I'll tell you what though, if you guys act quickly and get to Ghoulish Media as soon as possible and their numbers go up high enough, they will have that fist fight ready to go by end of month. That's a guarantee.
Yeah.
Zippity zappity. Randy
I watch
guarantee.
a lot of MMA, so let's go.
Zippity zappity Randy
Yeah, zippity.
guarantee. I like that.
We also have one more sponsor to mention. This is an old sponsor, but a good one. They're coming back for us. Do you enjoy the feel of the ocean? Then buy Sea-Doo Vibes. Sea-Doo Pocket Vibes, to be more specific.
Rock it in your pocket or in the ocean.
Yeah, feel the motion of the ocean right in your pocket. Sea-Doo Vibes.
Nothing is quite like the ocean, like the loud sound of mechanical vibrating. Oh, we're getting a last minute call.
Calling Randy.
No, somebody's calling the hotline.
Yeah.
They gonna have to wait.
Hey, hang up on that shit.
It might
Hanging
not
up.
on. No.
Hopefully that leaves them
I should have
a
picked
message
it up,
option.
but I
but
wasn't logged in.
No.
I could have picked it up actually. Next time it happens, we'll pick it up.
right.
Not kidding. No, we won't.
Call
We really
earlier.
won't. Do not call. Do not call.
Every week it's going to happen now. Fuck.
Don't you know?
Yeah, get your jollies off of Sea-Doo Vibes. And without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the main event. We're talking about The Sixth Sense, and we're going to kick it off with the back of the box.
What's on the back of the box?
Bob, you got this box? I know you do. Is it baby blue?
Yeah, I got it on the baby blue. It's over there somewhere on the shelf.
I know because we watched it together.
Are you going to read it off of the box?
He never does. He never does.
Yeah, but we make a promise to our listeners, and you are fucking us up, man. Come on.
He's got the Shymalan trip split, baby blue.
Bob, no.
Read the back of
Bob, no.
Unbreakable
No.
instead.
Bob, no.
This is it's got some words on it here.
Oh my lord.
All right, back of the box here. When Dr. Malcolm Crowe, a distinguished child psychologist, meets Cole Sear, a frightened and confused 8-year-old, Dr. Crowe is completely unprepared to learn what truly haunts young Cole. As the depth of Cole's incredible sixth sense is discovered, both Dr. Crowe and Cole are led into intense and mysterious encounters that have unforgettable consequences. Gentlemangs, have you seen this before? Would you recommend people check it out? Danielle, why don't you kick us off, please?
Okay. Yeah, I hadn't seen this since I was like 12 or like 11. Yeah. Way too much for an 11-year-old. I remember being scarred by this movie, but I hadn't seen it more than clips here and there, or like knowing the three big things from the movie that everyone talks about. And so when I revisited this time, I was like, wow, this movie's way different than I remember. As far as recommending it, if you're looking for a super scary horror movie to watch, like you're like, I'm going to show someone a horror movie. This one's probably not it. I probably wouldn't show this movie as like a scary movie. However, like a thriller drama type movie, I would recommend it. But all around, I had already told Rob I love M. Night so freaking much. So yeah, of course. Of course.
We're going to get into that later.
Sweet deal. Randy, what about you?
I have to respectfully disagree to some point. I think that this movie is actually a really, really decent entry-level horror movie. I know that because it served as one for me when I was about the same age as you, Danielle. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's got the perfect amount of gore to sort of tease that out of people, whether or not they like that, you know what I mean? But it's also subdued enough to where, like, the first person I saw this was the first people were like my cousins and my aunt and my mom. So like it was subdued enough for that audience, but it was graphic enough for me to like kind of tease that out of myself. And then on top of that, it's just like a pretty effective tone with this movie. And I think that's kind of the thing that makes people take horror movies seriously, as opposed to something like, Friday the 13th, the 80s slashers that people's minds immediately jump to with horror, at least in that era. I think it kind of it circumvents that a little bit and gives them something more serious. It's a serious actor. It's fucking Bruce Willis. People take him seriously. And, this movie was a cultural flashpoint with millions of fucking people. So obviously it had some sort of mass appeal. I think it's probably a pretty good horror movie. But if you're a horror fanatic like we are at this point, it's not going to hold that same level of weight for you. I wouldn't think.
For sure. Yeah, I agree with that too as an entry level. And I did watch this with my grandma, so you are correct.
Nice.
Yeah, so I agree.
Good granny horror. You heard it here, folks.
Good. Man, Shyamalan's really got a thing for granny horror.
Cornered the market for granny horror. Juice, what about you?
I had seen this before. It's been a hot minute. I agree with Randy. I originally watched this when I was younger as well with my grandparents in the theater. So that's funny. That's funny. And
that's probably a byproduct of us being the age we were at that time.
Yeah, Juice. I guess so. But also, I guess the cultural impact, because I do feel like, at least when this came out, this was some hot shit, and it was a big cultural impact. So if nothing else, I would recommend it for that. I think it does have some good horror merit. It didn't, as watching it older now, there were things that, it didn't affect me as much, definitely. So it's not hardcore horror or anything like that. But I think it's interesting coming from its time. It's a good family horror in a way, like Randy was kind of saying. It kind of covers a large spectrum while still having some cool horror elements. So I feel like a lot of people can watch this. So yeah, I would. And also, it had such a cultural impact that it's just one of those movies that you should see to know. Like, I don't know. I just feel like if you're going to watch any Shyamalan movie, which, you know, he his name, holds weight in, the film community and stuff like that. So, like, you should watch this movie. This should be the one you watch. So,
Your mileage may vary, but yes.
yeah. So, yeah, I would recommend. Bob?
Yo.
Would you recommend? Had you seen it before?
Yeah, I'd seen this movie again, like all you guys said when you were like, 12 or so was the first time I watched this movie. And at the time, it scared the daylights out of me for sure. Not so much now. Now that I'm a little bit older, the emotional stuff resonated with me a little bit harder than it did as a child. You feel for the mom and she's trying to help her struggling son and stuff. So that I appreciated more this time around. So it's interesting. There's sort of something you can pull from this regardless of what age you are, I think, and regardless of like what sort of horror hound you may or may not be. I think there's kind of something there for everybody, which is probably why this was such like why it carried such a cultural impact. Also this was sort of the birth of like the Shyamalan twist and that sort of infamous nowadays. But I think it's cool to look back at movies that came out when we were kids that sort of moved the needle culturally and ponder on them now, like 20 years later, and see how they hold up. See if they're worthy of revisiting. I think this one is, and I do recommend seeing it if you haven't already. And if you somehow don't know the end of this movie, we're going to spoil it and treat yourself. Watch the thing without knowing what happens. If you're like one of the 10 people in the world that don't know how this movie ends, check it out.
When y'all were kids, by the way, I want to clarify.
Right.
I'm sorry. You said you watched this in theaters with your grandparents, I believe?
Yeah,
Was it a
absolutely.
throwback night?
On the 10-year re-release in 2009, Randy. When
you came prepared with a note to explain your fallacies. I love it. You always come prepared to support the bit.
Yeah, with the truth. I always come prepared with the truth.
Yes, the truth, subjective though it is. Yeah.
Cool. Sounds like a pretty solid recommend from the Straight Chilling crew. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning and we'll get into the rest of the movie. Here we go.
Spoiler warning.
Bob, you got that plot synopsis ready for us?
Sure.
Bob, you didn't type it up?
I gotcha.
You only have to do one thing for this cast,
Just one
Bob.
single thing for this cast. That's it.
All we ask you is to type a plot
can't even
synopsis,
do that.
all nice and neat.
What people don't seem to realize is that when we aren't recording, Rob is in cryogenic sleep. He actually does nothing at any other time of the day.
We ask him
it's
to
true.
wake up 30 minutes early,
I'm
type
frozen.
up a plot synopsis, and that's all he's got to do.
Frozen in kryptonite the rest of the week. I can blast through this real quick. So, yeah, this is obviously starring Bruce Willis, Haley Joel Osment as a little baby, young Toni Collete, which I always forget she's in this movie, but she fucking kills it like she
she's
does
so
in everything. Also, let us not forget that Donnie motherfucking Wahlberg is in this movie. We're going to talk about
My
him.
boy Donnie.
My boy Donnie
Talk a
Dub.
lot about the Wahlbergs today. We got some things.
We
to talk
are.
about. Oh, we are.
Surprisingly, yes.
That
We
is
had some
very surprising.
revelations while
Oh,
watching
yeah.
this.
Did you realize there were multiple Wahlbergs and not just one?
No. Just
No, okay.
so much more than that. Bruce Willis, he's this child psychologist. The movie opens up with one of his children that he treated growing up and I guess not getting over whatever was tormenting him.
Name is Vincent.
So this guy's probably like in his early 20s now, breaks into Bruce Willis's house and he shoots Bruce Willis and then shoots himself in the head. And then we kind of have a cut scene there, title card, and then we see Bruce Willis and he's sitting on a bench across the street from this little kid's house. That's Haley Joel Osment's character. He walks out of the house and Haley Joel Osment is a troubled youth. His mom's not totally sure what's wrong with him, what he's going through. So Bruce Willis is there to help figure it out, and starts talking to this little kid. And he's very shy at first. Starts opening up, At a certain point, he opens up enough to Bruce Willis and tells him what he's going through, and he says that he can see dead people. He sees them all the time. The dead people are everywhere, but they only see what they want to see. And Bruce Willis is like, well, you know what? Maybe you can help these dead people out. Maybe that's why you can see them. You're supposed to help them out, and then it'll make them go away. So he helps one of them out, and it kind of works, and it's sort of a happy ending. And then at the end of the movie, we find out that Bruce Willis is also a ghosty. He died at the beginning of the movie when he got shot. Yeah, we find out that Bruce Willis is dead at the end of The Sixth Sense, and then we all jizz in our pants.
Yes.
He was dead the whole time. I remember my grandfather being so proud because during the first time we watched it in the theater, he leaned over. Apparently, I didn't know, but he leaned over to my grandmother and was like, in the halfway point, was like, "He's dead." And now it's weird watching it now because we watched it so young, and it's hard to remove that knowledge. But watching it now, it seems so obvious to me now that I feel like any kind of like somebody paying attention would probably guess. But
it's also a byproduct of this movie, isn't it? Because this movie, like we said, like the word twist meant nothing to me outside of Bop It until this movie came out. So like
two things started in 1999: the movie twist and reality television, and
your life, as I understand it.
Yeah, and well, not quite, but close.
Oh my God, you're sticking to the chronology. I hate you. Okay, Danielle, I feel like you were about to say something. Sorry about that.
Oh no, I just thought the Bop It thing was really funny.
Well, there's always time for validating.
Yeah, that was very good. We can stop it and I'll validate anytime.
Oh, am I still in? Okay, sorry. There was a little glitch there for a second. Yeah, so like the cultural impact of this movie is not to be understated at all. This movie is like I see dead people is the Matrix bullet time of horror. Like it's the Borat My Wife of horror. It's Oh Behave for a horror movie. That's what this is.
Those movies came out around the same time.
But yeah, that's why they came to mind, I'm sure. But
Powers 97, I believe.
Anyway, but it's like this is the overused, overhyped, overparodied line that you saw in every MTV Movie Awards for like 5 years. And on top of that, the other legacy aspect of this movie is the twist. Like people started looking for twists in movies because this was such hot shit for subverting people's expectations. To a fault, it became a cultural thing, as we know now, like because we are so savvy. We're all looking for the twist for years. We were all like, okay, so what's going to be the rug pull? What's it going to be? And is it going to be, and even to the point where he was dead the whole time is like the go-to joke twist. So I feel like it's kind of tough to remove our knowledge of how this movie works out in the end, but it's even tougher to remove the cultural impact that led us to look for that sort of thing in the first place.
Yeah, to not be tricked. It's watching as adult, like Bob said, it is different. It scared the shit out of me when I was a kid. It did, and particularly one scene that I thought was coming up, but I was in the wrong timing because it's been so long I watched this. But the one where the little girl shows up in the tent, she's like throwing up. I was like almost like dreading that a little bit because it's been a long time. But then when it showed up, I was like, oh, it's just a sick little girl. Like I felt so bad.
Well, because you know the menace is gone, right?
Well, yeah, and I felt so bad for almost everybody involved. The only other one I guess was kind of the battered woman who shows up in his kitchen, and I think it's just because she's so much bigger than him and like looming over him. And then we get the one which was a good tease in the closet,
oh dude,
where he gets stuffed
scary
in there, but it's mostly because we can't see
it. Yeah.
And so I feel like if he was able to utilize maybe more of those moments, it could have had even a bigger horror impact. But I still think it's effective for what it's doing.
You see that Haley Joel actually can be physically harmed by these ghosts during that closet sequence because his mom sees his back is like cut up, which that's what really makes it scary. Like seeing scary stuff is one thing, but knowing that those ghosts can physically harm you, especially when you're a kid, is utterly terrifying.
Yeah, that you're never safe. There's no place you're ever safe. Like he's scared to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
So was I. That's so sad.
After watching this, I was like, man, I'm just going to hold it for a few hours.
Which doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
Running around in your tighty whities and shit.
It shows that they could show up at anywhere. I mean, two of them show up in his room. The kid who's got his head blown out and the girl who's
Dude.
throwing up. So it's like, well,
That's
I
the
mean, go to the
scariest
bathroom.
part.
They can show up anywhere.
That reveal is the one that fucked me up the most as a kid, when that kid turns around and you see the back of his head's blown out.
Yeah, that was shocking.
Yeah, I screamed.
Yeah.
That one, the little girl was the most impactful for me, but the other one that I remembered that I was kind of waiting for this was the people in the school where they were hung.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like,
That's a good
oh,
one.
shit.
Dude, when he busts out the stuttering Stanley and he's like making fun of his teacher, and his teacher sort of regresses and starts stuttering again, like I guess he did when he was a child, that is a tense ass moment, man. Like,
Yeah.
how do you handle that as a grown ass adult? Like, his teacher obviously didn't handle it very well. He just started yelling at him.
You don't call your kids a freak. I mean, that
Yeah.
seems pretty obvious.
It's not chill. But I don't know. Haley Joel, like another thing I didn't really pick up on as a kid watching this was just how talented he is as a child actor. Like, you feel for that kid this whole movie. He's going through some shit and you just like want to help him. And you got like weird ass Bruce Willis just like kind of whispering at him a little bit. And like eventually he helps out a ghostie and you're like, okay, there's some resolution, which is nice. But you feel for that kid, man. Like, he's going through some
I
shit.
agree.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Haley Joel Osment is so small in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I don't remember how small. I'm like, his head is like, he's a baby in this movie. And I just feel so sad. I watched this again for this podcast with my husband, and I was like, hey, I wasn't ready to be sad today. Like, this movie is sad. And I forgot that he was an adult now. And I'm like, I want to go help this kid. But I'm like, wait, he's an adult now. Never mind.
No, I had this, like, he's definitely, I've always kind of like felt for Cole in this movie. And like, even as a kid, I recognized this kid's like acts older than he is. Even when I saw it as a child, I felt that way. But who I didn't really appreciate until later in life, and probably, I saw this again not that long ago, maybe 2-3 years ago. But Rob mentioned it earlier. I think Toni Collete is so fucking powerful in this, and it's easy to see that like in contrast and in similarity to her role in Hereditary, where it's just so emotionally wrought, but coming from two entirely different avenues. She's just like the devoted single mom struggling to get by in this movie, and you really feel that, I feel like. And it's not just because it's Toni Collete, I know her now, but I think she really puts forth like a great performance in this. Between the three lead, I even think that Bruce Willis, for all like being maybe the big name, but like the lesser performer in this movie, I still think he does a really good job in this. Yeah. And it hurts me to say that because I don't like Bruce Willis as a person very much. Yeah, but he does a good job in this. I do want to bring up one thing, since we were talking about kills earlier, though. The one kill that I don't think we brought up was the bicyclist right at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that's
after where you kind of think the ghosts are okay or good. So it's
true, but it's still technically a jump scare. I don't think they do the stinger sound really. If they do, it's more subtle. But it's like a bloody person right outside the window in a sudden snapshot.
Yeah.
Anyway, but.
I just wanted to add to that real quick. Like, the way that scene is structured is so perfect, because like you see the ghosty and it sort of like primes you. You're like, oh fuck, that is a little bit scary. And then they like nail you with the emotions when he starts talking about his grandmother.
Yeah,
like she wants to tell his mom something, and like how she was really there when she was dancing as a child, and like she makes her proud every day. That just like fucking, I love that scene, man. That's like the strongest scene of the whole movie to me.
Well, yeah, that's the mended
really
fence that
Good
Vincent
Lord.
needed. You know what I mean? Like
it sells the whole movie, and the performances are just incredible, man.
There was a nice little touch, since we were talking about Haley Joel Osment's acting. There was a moment I felt really bad for him. I was like, man, he's doing good. And then there was a moment where I was like, maybe he's not doing so good. But then it actually made me realize a cool little touch in this movie, that he was doing a good job, but I think this was more of a director's choice, a nice little touch. And I said to Bob, he whispers a lot through the movie. And at first I thought Haley Joel Osment was just kind of stuck in this kind of like, this is how you're supposed to talk. And I was like, well, he's young, and I was kind of able to brush away. But I was like, no, that's a cool touch because he's talking to ghosts. So of course he doesn't want anybody to hear him talking to ghosts, which you don't really know that through the movie until of course you know that he's talking to ghosts. But something I picked up on this time, I was like, man, he's really whispering around. He's got this kind of, he has the same kind of cadence. But I was like, then later toward, I think it was like the hospital scene or something, and I was like, oh shit, he's talking to a ghost. And he doesn't want anybody to hear him. So when he's talking at school, when he's talking at his house, of course he's going to whisper. I thought that was a nice little touch. Like, just something I noticed this time.
Yeah, I didn't even notice that. That's cool.
I going back to the cyclist, there's a story there that kind of made that, in retrospect, one of the most memorable scenes for me, which is that when like I said, I watched that with like a large chunk of family, or like all of my family at least saw it. I can't remember the orientation of that, but at one point my dad always drove me to school, and even in early high school up until I got a car. So he was driving me to school one day, and we're sitting on the road in Jacksonville, Florida, where people don't typically bicycle on the streets, at least at that time. And we're sitting there just listening to fucking morning zoo bullshit, and my dad turns to me and says, "I see dead people." And I went, "What?" And he's like, "I see dead people." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he's like, he points behind me, and I turn around, and a cyclist rolls right by me, like right by my window, and scares the shit out of me. That cemented that scene in my head as one of my favorites. I just wanted to bring that up because it's a fun moment for me.
Nice.
But nevertheless,
parents are mean.
It's so funny to hear you talk about that, because I feel like this was such a cultural impact for so many years, even afterwards. Like, you could quote the "I see dead people," dude, at any time, and everybody knew what the fuck you were talking about.
One of my foremen at work has that scene where Haley Joel is laying in bed and he says, "I see dead people," printed on the wall at work, but it says, "I see dumb people."
Of course, yes, the Hot Topic parody level shit.
Oh yeah,
that shit was everywhere. You could see parodies of that line specifically on like every show on Nickelodeon or some shit, where presumably kids aren't watching this movie. I mean, like they were obviously, but like not all of them. Certainly, I don't think that a majority of my classmates at the time had seen it. I think that a chunk of them had, but we all fucking knew that line, and we all knew it was funny when somebody said, "I see dumb people," and shit like that. Like, we all knew that.
I might have had a shirt that said that.
I wouldn't be surprised. I had terrible shirts also.
The Lonely Island with that line that I already quoted, Bruce Willis dead at the end of the Sixth Sense, and I jizz in my pants. It's a cultural fucking thing, man, and people still talk about it today. Obviously, we are, for better or for worse, whether you're a Shymalan fan today or not. He's pretty hit or miss, but this movie was massive for him, and people still talk about it.
Well, and it's funny too, because watching this, we watched it and we're like, it has less horror impact, and I do think that's true. But another thing we had discussed when we talked about doing this movie. So last week we announced, we're going to watch Kong versus Godzilla, which we didn't realize it didn't come out until this weekend. So we had to change something. But something we had talked about recently is if there's an open spot, or maybe even once a season, making a spot for some classics. Because we've been doing this for 6.5 years now. There's a lot of like big hitter ones we haven't covered yet. And it's weird to think about this one, but I do think it is a classic horror movie now, especially with its impact that had on the culture. And we don't tout the 90s very much for, the realm of horror that was going on for that time. But even though this isn't, like a Friday the 13th or, a Nightmare on Elm Street, I do this with the Blair Witch. I mean, those were big horror cultural impacts at the time that brought in this huge net of people. Same thing with the Blair Witch, I mean, that was more strictly horror, but huge horror cultural impacts at the time. And I would say this is a classic.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. Definitely. And it's like the reason for that is I don't want to harp too much on the culture stuff because we've kind of covered it, but it's really important to say a lot of the impact that we aren't seeing when we watch it now is because that impact was impactful to begin with, but was then cribbed off of by dozens and dozens and hundreds of movies for this and the Blair Witch both. Like Blair Witch kicked off the widespread found footage movement. So I mean, correct me if I'm wrong about that, Danielle. You're the authority, but
Oh no, for sure.
okay, so yeah, like there's that, and then with this movie, the idea of a twist, like these big sort of like storytelling beats and storytelling like medium options, like they opened up whole new genres with these things. So it's got to be a classic, if only for that reason. It's like in some ways this is like Star Wars. Like Star Wars opened up like space opera, like space opera, sci-fi fantasies into the mainstream, and we got like Space Mutiny and shit out of that. Like there's a million movies that we could point to as being influenced by any of these movies. Certainly more for Star Wars. Yes, of course.
They are identical.
So yeah, I just want to point that out because like I said, like we watch this movie and it's like, yeah, some of these things feel tropey because they are now tropes because this movie exists. Like, I don't know. I think that's important to note, and it's impossible for me to separate 90s horror from this movie. It's just impossible for me.
Do you guys think that Shymalan would have like written so twisty of movies after this if this one didn't take off? I wonder if his movies would have been different.
I think he leaned hard into the twist repertoire when he went to The Village, because I believe that was, or no, Signs was next. Signs and then The Village.
So he had he had this setup, because we were talking about it the other day. We were like, what's the rise and fall of Shyamalan? Because, we've talked about Shyamalan. We've covered a couple of his movies, and even watching this movie, I acknowledge it had a huge impact, but I don't know. I think this guy kind of got lucky. I'm not going to lie. But aside from that, we can talk about that more. He had this one. Now he had some ones that he had done like in India or something, like an Indian film and something. But this was like his big. This is like his big one, and then Unbreakable, and then Signs, which, man, that's a awesome trip split. And then he had The Village, which I'm, kind of lukewarm on. I know wasn't a big hitter, but then he had like
Lady in the Water, I think, was next.
The Happening and Lady in the Water. I think I got those flipped. I think
it's the other way around, but yeah.
And Airbender, and we were like, oh God, what a fall from grace.
Yeah, man, he was on the fucking cover of Rolling Stone and touted as the next Spielberg, quote unquote.
Ooh, that's heavy.
So, I don't know, man. Yeah, that's intensely like those are big words to put on any director. And for him to, like, it feels like at the point where he started making Lady in the Water, I think that the diminishing returns of the twist idea and the proliferation of it throughout the rest of the industry at that point maybe led him to be like, okay, so the next movie is going to be something completely different, completely organic. I'm not going to lean on the twist. I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to lean on something else. So he tried Lady in the Water, and that, I haven't seen it, but it was widely regarded as terrible.
It's so stupid. I think. I know, Danielle, you're a big Shyamalan fan. What do you think?
I actually haven't seen that movie. I have not seen that movie.
There's a man.
Everyone just said it was bad, so I was like, if there's no twist, I ain't in, baby. No.
Yeah, there's a man in that movie who only exercises one bicep. So he has one giant bicep and then just a regular arm.
Weird.
Sometimes you gotta have a strong arm,
Stroking arm.
That, and then to build off of that though, after Lady in the Water, I believe the next movie was what was the next
Happening?
The Happening, which also kind of went back to twisty territory, but at that point I feel like we were oversaturated. It had reached like Walking Dead level 7 or season 7 levels of too much of this.
Well, and also that one, if it's got a twist, it didn't have a very good twist. It was like,
it wasn't the same. Yeah,
and I don't want to spoil anything, but then
he
watch The Happening. So,
but then when he did Split, that movie Split recently, and even the what is it, The Visit? Those movies both had twists, and he kind of like he revitalized that aspect of his filmmaking. And I thought both those movies had really decent twists that were really fun to me. Certainly, the tie-in, spoiler alert, the tie-in to Unbreakable with Split blew my goddamn dick right into the dirt. So I loved that. But it only could happen in a world where kind of the twist thing had already flared out somewhat, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. That's the same as when he made Devil, that movie Devil about the elevator.
Right.
And I feel
produced it.
I think
or produced it.
right?
And the twist in that movie was just very like, I don't know, make it the person that people don't think. There you go.
Yeah.
Another granny horror movie.
Yeah.
It's another one.
Which I fucking love that movie, so I'm not talking shit, but I feel like the twist was just like, oh, okay, yeah, that, surprise.
That makes twist sense.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Split, I will say now, though, I like Split, and I think it's probably his best movie in a long time. But I didn't see that coming either. I think we all watched it in the theater together. I remember.
We definitely did. I remember turning to Rob I turned to Rob like as we're like they're talking about the events of the movie on the news or whatever, and I go, "This is a fucking sequel to Unbreakable," and I watched Rob's mouth go from closed to full on dropped.
But it was back to like horror roots again, which he kind of had with The Happening, but again it had a touch of that Lady in the Water where it was stupid, and I feel like he teetered. He teetered a little bit with The Village, where you thought it was going to be horror, but why a lot of people didn't like that movie is because almost the twist is that it wasn't horror, which was kind of some bullshit. Anyways, that's the history of Shymalan. I'm very lukewarm on this guy. I feel like even in this movie, I respect it a lot, but watching it again as an adult who's watched a lot of film and horror film, it felt like an early piece of work. The cinematography, and again, it felt kind of obvious what was happening, but it's hard to say because I know. But it did feel a little amateurish, and I feel like this guy really kind of fell into a lot of luck. It's clever. But it's not.
Are you talking about The Sixth Sense when you're talking about this?
Sixth Sense, yeah. I'm sorry. I'm talking about The Sixth Sense. The movie, yeah, horror covering. I know we were talking about back to it, but yeah. So watching it this time, I felt like it's clever, but is it an amazing movie? Not really. I saw more cracks this time around. Personally.
See, I had the opposite experience. I feel, well, not the opposite, but like I felt like this sustained really well. But I think that the things that make it work are not things that you can find in every Shyamalan movie. Like there's the thing that makes this work is strong goddamn performances. A really, I think for the most part, pretty buttoned up concept. Like conceptually, the twist from top to bottom mostly makes sense. There's a few sort of like nagging questions in my mind, but I don't think that they're not game changers sort of things that really affect my interpretation of the movie. And it hinges on an emotional trauma or an emotional like journey for these characters. And like, you don't get that shit in The Happening, or if you do, it's really, really hindered by a Wahlberg performance. And I don't know, like you can only do so much with the stock that you're using. You know what I mean? Like there's not, I feel like to whatever extent he was lucky in this, it had to do with the actors and the lack of people doing what he ended up being most famous for, which is the twisty thing. And he also did it in the best way. Like Unbreakable and this movie really, really, I think did that in a strong way. Like every scene with Bruce Willis has some indication that he's not quite of this world if you're looking for it, but not if you're not looking for it. I don't know. I'm trying to think. There was one thing that was kind of a question I had lingering, but I'll come back to it because I can't think of it at this moment.
So another thing that this movie did that, as far as my like 11 or 12-year-old brain was unaware of, was there's like a pretty significant moment in this movie. It's sort of the turning point of the movie where we find out like this little girl has been poisoned by her mother, and our main characters basically like help the ghost inform her father of the mother's wrongdoing. So like the mom's like poisoning her daughter's soup, and because of this, she eventually dies. This is phenomenon that we see a lot nowadays. We were talking about it in The Baby a couple weeks ago, and it's been in other movies that we've reviewed before, like Munchausen by Proxy. That movie Run that came out last year is on Hulu.
That was a big one.
With Sarah Paulson. That was a great movie. That's all about this. But this was like kind of the first movie that I ever saw that in. But
same.
I know there's several like real stories of this happening, and Danielle, you actually knew a family that dealt with this that was sort of like nationally known. Did you care to share your story?
Yeah, I can't believe it was national. Like it took off and got the documentary and then the Hulu show. Insane. But I knew Dee Dee and Gypsy Blanchard because they're from Springfield. They're originally from Louisiana, but they moved here where I am. And I worked at Hot Topic for 5.5 years, and they would come in every Tuesday for New Music Tuesday. That's back when Hot Topic actually had music.
Yeah.
Wow, that CDs got released on Tuesdays.
Now it's Friday.
Yeah.
Want to get the new Mudvayne, bro?
I do.
Uptown.
Danielle, I
The
also
new
worked at
Daughtry.
Hot Topic. Hey-o.
Did you? Wow, we were cool.
Whoa.
So you also worked
I worked
somewhere.
at Spencer.
Oh, well, I mean,
For like 2 days. I couldn't handle selling dildos to ladies.
To grannies.
yeah.
I was like 18, freshly 18, and literally 40-year-old women were asking me about vibrators. I could not handle it.
Yeah, that's too much. We still got people coming in. Do you guys have vibrators here? I'm like, no, that's Spencer's. Please go. I'm also 18 and I'm scared of you, so please go. But that's when we had music and things were still cool at Hot Topic. Sorry, Hot Topic, but you suck now. And they would come in every Tuesday, and they would always be all done up, like Dee Dee would be wearing her like little moo that she always wore, and her voice is so small and like nice and southern, and she was just like this nice lady. I hugged her like 400 times probably, and they would always tell us about all this stuff they did for like Make-A-Wish and Comic-Cons they went to and everything like that. So I mean, there was no way that anyone thought anything was going on behind the scenes. I definitely didn't. I talked to my friends that worked there. They didn't. And then, we knew them for 5 years because that's how long I worked there. And then had them on Facebook. And one day we just started seeing the statuses. And I don't know if you guys know that much about the story, but long story short, Gypsy got a boyfriend, told him about how her mom treated her, and then he came down and killed her mom. So he put these statuses up on her mom's Facebook saying, the bitch is finally dead. I did all this stuff. And, my friends were calling me from Hot Topic like, are you seeing these statuses from Dee Dee and Gypsy? And I'm like, I don't understand. And I should have screenshotted them because we could have context, but I was so in shock and we were trying to get a hold of her and all this stuff. But so first, it's kind of like, not to make it a funny issue, but it was like the Shymalan twist, like layers. Like first, this girl is dead, and that's crazy, and I can't believe it. And like, who would want to hurt this sweet lady who did everything she could in her life for her kid? And then we start watching the news, and just out comes Gypsy just walking like normal, and it blew our fucking mind. Because
so can you give me a little context? I know the general, like we've talked about it several times because this situation has come up. Can you give me some of the finer details? So when they came into Hot Topic and you knew them as a family, what was she in a wheelchair? What was the situation?
Yeah, so she had, I think that she had so much wrong with her that I don't remember, or, quote unquote wrong with her, that I don't remember exactly what, but she was wheelchair ridden, like she couldn't walk.
Okay.
And she was really skinny and she had no teeth.
Wow.
And like, I guess she like most of her teeth in the front and the bottom were gone, but she had like capped teeth, and that was from the medication, just, making her teeth fall out. And then she was bald. And so she would always wear this little hat because she was bald.
Okay.
And so then it turns out that nothing was wrong with her, and her mom was just feeding her all these drugs and telling her this is how, like, you're sick, and if you don't act this way, people won't believe that you're sick. So you are, pretend you can't walk. And she would always be holding her hand, which freaks me the fuck out, because you think, oh, they're holding hands because that's her mom, they love each other. But really, if she started talking about something that could lead to them being exposed, she would squeeze her hand.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then it would show Gypsy, like, stop talking about this.
Oh,
and so
did she get what now that her mom's not feeding her drugs? Has she gotten better or whatever?
Yeah, watching the court case on TV, she just walked out. This was a few months later when I actually saw her, like, on the documentary, and she had long hair. They had, like, given her fake teeth. She was talking normally because she thought she was, her mom was telling her she was 14, 15, 16 when she was actually 23, 24, 25.
What?
Yeah, so she didn't know how old she was.
That's insane.
And so when you talk to her, she's like, "Hello, I'm
look
Gypsy."
This shit up.
Yeah, and she would talk like a baby, kind of.
This whole thing, like that, what was it? The doc? It was Mommy Dead and Dearest, right?
Yeah.
HBO thing.
Yeah.
I've seen that like 3 times. Becky is obsessed with that story, by the way, and she's going to be thrilled to hear your side of it. But it's just such a dark thing, and I think that documentary in particular kind of kicked off like the entertainment industry's fascination with this thing. This is the first time I saw it was in Sixth Sense. But there's been so many like repeats or so many movies that touch on this, I think, because of that story and because of that documentary.
So what do you guys think, right or wrong? Should the boyfriend have killed her?
That's like the first question I
probably
always
should have
get.
just contacted the police and like gathered evidence, and murder's like never really the answer. Even if she's doing something as terrible as she did, like, I don't know, man.
You got to watch this shit, man, because there's circumstances involved.
Yeah, okay. I have not seen the documentary and know basically what Danielle just said. Like, I don't know much about this at all.
Yeah, that's pretty much the first thing that people ask me when I tell them, like, isn't it crazy that I knew them for the past, like, for 5 years, every Tuesday they would come in. And the first thing they would ask is, do you think that Gypsy should be in prison? Because she's in prison. I don't remember how long she got.
She's in prison too, huh?
Gypsy's in prison. And I don't think that is the correct call, because she's going to go to prison and then she's going to get out. And then she's going to be lost. Where the fuck does she go? She has never been a real adult. I think she should have gone to a psych.
So what'd she get, like manslaughter or something?
Yeah.
It was like a conspiracy to commit, something like that, because she, like, I think the prosecution's big case against her was that she manipulated her boyfriend, was not he's not like
stable.
He's not a high achiever. He's not a stable dude. He's a little bit slower. Like she's really smart considering like her background and how she was held down. If she had been like led to grow normally, she would have been a fully functioning adult at that point.
Yeah. Right.
So it's thorny. It's thorny.
If she had killed the mom, could you argue some kind of self-defense at that point? Do you think she would have done it herself?
I think it would be different. Like you said, conspiracy. If you wake up and you're like, I can't take this fucking shit anymore, and you kill your mom, that makes, okay.
It's still
I get
premeditated.
it is, I guess. Yeah. But getting on the internet, finding some guy that's you talk into murdering your mom.
I guess if you can get on the internet, you can contact the police and say, like, this is happening.
But whether or not she knew that was an option for, like, that's the thing, is like, it's really, really thorny. Danielle, correct me if I'm wrong about that, but
tricky.
No. Yeah. Well, and also how long did she actually know that this wasn't how she was supposed to be living? If her mom was telling her, this is how you're supposed to be, and like we're going, but she still thought she was sick.
she also bought the knife herself and shit like that.
Yeah. When did her brain switch from?
I don't know, man. I'm gonna make.
And it was a particularly brutal murder.
Say if somebody was like poisoning me and lying to me, I'd fucking kill their ass. That's a personal call. Now, I wouldn't manipulate Bob to do it unless I thought I was too weak to. Then I might manipulate Bob.
I mean, I think that if you're not murdering, if you're killing somebody, my personal opinion is if you're killing somebody, and it's not like in a throw of immediate defensive passion of some kind, like if it's at all premeditated, then it's murder, and there's a price for that. I think that there's definitely some psychological issues at play without question, and that should be addressed. And I think it is somewhat being addressed based on her interviews I've seen since then.
Yeah,
within prison, but whether or not like that's entirely a personal thing, and I can't blame her for being upset or for venting to a boyfriend or for even like fantasizing about this other world where she could be free by killing the evil stepmother situation. Yeah, like I can understand all that, but it's a premeditated murder at its core.
Now,
like,
Randy, let me pose you this moral quandary. Now, you said no matter what, if you can like think about it's not in passion, then it's murder. Now, however, what if, like, let's say she didn't have the internet access and didn't move through her boyfriend or whatever. What if she thought about it for a long time and almost like that movie Run, where you're able to concoct this thing to say, like, I'm going to die or be stuck this way if I don't act. And in that act, the mom is then killed in a seek for freedom, but it was planned out. Like, I have to do this, like it was carefully planned. Are you still condemning as like a murder?
If killing her mom is part of the plan, then yes. If it's not, and it's just a consequence of her plan going sideways or whatever, no, that's defensive. Like, I mean, I'm talking about in terms of the law as I understand it. I'm not making a moral judgment when I say it is murder. It is murder. Like whether or not she has the faculties for it has become increasingly seeming like she did on some level she knew that killing was wrong. I mean, like, and she bought the knife and she had these dark fantasies with her boyfriend who she never told to stop. And she had access to police. She had access to all sorts of things. I personally, and like whether or not she had the upbringing that would allow her to rationalize these things correctly or in a way that would not lead to murder is the debate. And for me, it's not really that much of a question when it comes down to where she should go, because where she should go is whoever's going to best address the problem of here's a person who killed somebody.
Yeah.
Do you think she could,
I don't know.
I mean, again, I haven't seen the documentary or anything. Do you think she could plead insanity at that point, because she has lived a terrible life where she's been poisoned for the vast majority of her life, if not her entire life? Like, she cannot be in her right mind. There's no way. I mean,
yeah. Well, that's very subjective, right?
I guess.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the prosecutor or the defense for her did present insanity or like mental illness, and it was lowered from that. You know, her sentence was lowered, but they couldn't do much more. But I'm not trying to ruin the documentary for you, but I'm pretty sure that's how it happened.
Watch that documentary. Damn, you guys.
It's extremely interesting.
It's very good. I had to pause it like every 15 minutes. My husband's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "It's just heavy."
Yeah, but
just knowing some
wild,
like,
Danielle,
just like seeing their face, I'm like, "Oh, God, I remember like." You know how you like remember how people
spooky,
talk and stuff? I'm just like, ugh.
Well, when you see it through film, you know they're people and this situation happens, but when you can place them within your vicinity, you know what they sound like personally. You know their height and just the weight of things. I don't know. It definitely, I can't imagine. That's crazy.
I had somebody, I'm sorry, Daniel, go ahead.
I was just going to say, also unveiling such evil when everything was so... I mean, they dressed in all pastels. They always talked how happy and blessed. Oh, it's always blessed. We're so blessed to be, make a wish and go to these Comic-Cons for free. And she's still alive with me, and she would always smiling. There was never a time that Gypsy wasn't smiling. And then to have all that, like within 2 hours, just like she's dead and that's all a lie. I'm just like, holy shit.
That's so wild. That's some devious evil shit, man, though. I can't even imagine.
Well, that's also like
devious shit.
I would poison you if I could go to like cons for free, just to be clear.
If you can make money off of me.
Oh yeah.
Oh, Bob.
Depends on which cons, but
This is my good buddy Staines right here.
He's just
so
a corpse in the passenger seat for the fucking carpool lane. Yeah, I don't know. Like, just to bring
carpool lane.
like, I just want to point out real quickly, like, you could, the same defense that Gypsy put up for herself, like, you could apply that to her mom too. Her mom was not mentally sound. Like, so it's tough. Like that's a line that everybody has to draw for themselves. Unfortunately, it's an extremely obscured one in that case, which is one of the things that makes it so goddamn interesting. But to bring it back to Sixth Sense, because we've been talking about this for a while, like that's the first time I ever saw anything like that. And in this movie, they make I mean, there's no time to really, so I'm not, this is not a blame game thing, but they spend no time like allowing the mom to have any depth. It's just like, so when you see that and that's your introduction to this concept, for me, it was like, you would have to be fucking evil, like you were just saying. So it's like,
that's a great scene just in the context of this movie. Cause I didn't see anything like that before either, but that the mom was doing it and this little girl and she's playing, I don't know, it really shifts the tone of the movie, and that's when you really start to feel good for old little Cole, because then he feels better about himself. He does the school play and he's successful and kids actually like him. But it's a quick turnaround, because then I was kind of shocked. I had forgotten that it's that, and then you see like, oh, he's gonna be okay, and then Spruce Willis takes off like right after that, and you're like, well, damn, like that was a quick turnaround. And then of course that big impactful scene with his mom at the end. They really do end on a really high note for this film. I liked that, because especially remembering back when I watched this, how scary that girl was. That scene where he's in the tent, she's like throwing up. Now it was more like more feel good, like, oh, help that little girl, and he does, and then he feels good. I'm like, oh yeah. We joked about this for old Split and Glass, but Haley Joel Osment should have come back as the ghost detective or
as
whatever,
the seer,
the ghost telling things. That's his power. Shared universe, Shymalan. Come on,
it's connected to Tusk. He's the same character in both movies. It's all the same. It's not
connected to
the
Tusk.
Smith Shyamalaverse. It's all connected.
All the Shyamalan movies are connected.
Can we get Jay and Silent Bob in the Sixth Sense Part 2, please?
You got the one dude with the bicep. You got Marky Mark can talk to trees. We got Haley.
Speaking of, I
like
did not know until this
this
movie. I did not know that was a Wahlberg. I had no fucking clue. I
wouldn't even.
And
notice.
I still can barely see it when I look at him. Like he really. I assume he lost weight for this role.
I got some trivia.
He looks like
he's tiny.
He looks like Christian Bale in The Machinist. Tiny.
He's a C-string Wahlburger for sure.
Oh yeah.
We have a joke with me and my husband Nate, and he's any white actor. He's like, is that Mark Wahlberg? I'm like, why do you always think? And so he's just he just like
the baseline white man.
Yeah, and so I wouldn't get upset. He would change it and be like, that's not Mark Wahlberg, that's Wark Wahlberg. And so you'd say like if their names backwards. So I was so excited to tell him about Donnie Wahlberg in this, and I'm like, guess who that guy is? And he's like, I don't know. I'm like, that's Donnie Wahlberg. He's like, no, it's not. I'm like, yes, it is. And he had to Google it. He didn't believe me. And I was like so excited that he didn't know. I don't know how that at all. I think it was my grandma, but
I kept calling him Danny. Even today, I was like, Danny Wahlberg?
Nope.
Bro, I was like,
Danny.
Nope.
Old Danny. I think he did a great job in this, which I don't say that about Wahlbergs that often.
I mean, he didn't really.
Oh, he's a good actor, I think, right?
I don't know. I can't think of what else has he been in. Donnie in particular, I don't know.
Dreamcatcher and Saw.
He was all right and Saw. Dreamcatcher. I don't remember many positives about that.
We were talking about the other day. What's it called, Bob?
Oh yeah,
Alice like that.
Funky Bunch.
Yeah.
Step by
was it the
Step.
Funky Bunch?
New Kids on the Block.
New Kids on the Block.
Yeah, it was New Kids on the Block.
Yeah.
And Marky Mark of the
Donnie was?
Mm-hmm.
No, Mark.
Oh, was it?
No,
Mark was in Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
True.
As I recall.
True.
And then Donnie
So was that a set? Were they both in boy bands?
Pretty sure.
I don't know. We're gonna have to look this up.
I think he was. I think Donnie Wahlberg was in.
Yeah.
He was in.
He was in New Kids on. I had no fucking idea. That isn't.
So he was in New Kids on the Block and NKOTBSB, which I guess is New Kids on the Block.
On the Backstreet Block. It's the Backstreet Boys addendum that they did. They did them all.
Oh,
They
wow.
joined forces.
Good Lord.
I don't know anything about New Kids on the Block though. Beyond that, because I'm not.
They
as
had a
old as
lot of
Soldier,
hits.
So.
Chinese food makes me sick.
Ew.
I
You're welcome.
think that is a very our age joke. Thank
Right?
you.
I
for
love that shit.
I did. I thought that was terrific. We've gotten through a lot of like childhood comedic beats here today.
We have, dude.
Fucking my wife.
Just for good
Nailed
measure.
it.
Just got to throw it in there. It's the rules. I don't make the rules.
Nice. Is I know there's probably some more stuff we could talk about here, but we do need to rate this thing. Real quick, is like quick hits. Anything else you guys want to mention about The Sixth Sense before we do rate it? Bueller,
Good cinematography.
Bueller?
Really good.
Yeah.
I think I'm good.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought so.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and do this. So out of 5, let's go ahead and rate The Sixth Sense. Danielle, you are our esteemed guest. Would you please kick us off? How would you like to rate The Sixth Sense out of 5?
I am going to. Oh, this is hard. This one's a hard one. I think I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. The only reason I would take the 0.5 away is some of the plot was a little lesser than sometimes. Like, I feel like it wasn't as linear as when I was little, I guess. Like some of the plot points, I'm like, okay, that's we could tell that he's not, he's talking to a ghost here. Or the one that stands out the most is at the beginning of the movie, him and Bruce Willis and his wife are like totally fucking in love. It's like disgusting. And then every time he comes home now, she's just nowhere. I'm like, what's going on? Like, but how would they have even had them talking, So I don't know. That's it.
All right.
Well, I'm sorry. I'll cover it when it gets to me.
Well, Randy, why don't you take it next, man? Out of 5, how you feel about The Sixth Sense?
Randy said, first off, fuck you. No, I'm just kidding.
I always start every sentence that way. So yeah, I agree that this is a great film. I kind of want to put it pretty high too. I think maybe I'll match Daniel at 4.5. To address the in love thing, yeah, they're kind of like aggressively in love at the beginning, and I would argue that like that's kind of necessary to show, like just to show there's no existing trouble in paradise, and that they're falling out as we assume it is until we find out the twist. It gives that some credence or some sort of emotional weight beyond, what the fuck's going on here? I have no idea what's going on. Like, I don't know. I feel like that was pretty valuable. The acting is really, really fucking good in this movie, I think, overall, especially Toni Collete and Haley Joel Osment. I think they both nail it. And I think Bruce Willis does pretty damn good as well. Excuse me. Myself? What the fuck? words coming out of my mouth. What else? I mentioned the cinematography briefly, but like this is, first of all, there's the thing that became another sort of like a hallmark of these twist movies where there's sort of a calling card that you can see, and the big one in this was the color red, which is only used to indicate some sort of sinister or ghostly presence. Usually, I can't remember the exact parameters, but the doorknob on his under the stairs office is red. The Munchausen's mom is wearing red at a funeral. Like there's a lot of that going on, which I appreciate. And then on top of that, I think that like the shots, the blocking of some of the stuff is not like incredibly intensively great, but it's pretty solid, and I think it tells the story really well. Things like having a scene start with Bruce Willis and Toni Collete facing each other in opposite chairs, and having Cole walk in the room, see his mom first, and then see Bruce, and just kind of freeze up. Like that was a beautiful way of framing that, and having him sort of like framed in the middle. You have a lot of like silhouetted against, giant windows at the school, like things like that. I thought they were really, really good, and we didn't really cover that before. Other than that, like for the cultural impact and everything else we've mentioned, the entry level nature of the horror, and I think this is a great movie. So it's a 4.5 for me.
Awesome. 4.5 from Randy. Juice, how you feel out of 5?
Watching this, it was interesting again watching this movie so later in life, and I appreciated it for different things, but it felt a little skinny to me. And it really, to me, almost in a way made me lose a little somehow more respect for Shyamalan, because it felt very well, not for this in particular, but it felt very lucky and clever to me. I don't know. I was like, that's a clever idea, and it just happened to blow up. And I think that maybe ruined him a little bit, a touch. But I thought the red was a little overdone. We called it out every time we saw it in this movie, and it's very heavy. The wife's wearing a red dress when they go to dinner. There was a ton, like the curtains in the back, but they like hammer it home pretty hard.
But unless you're looking for it, do you know that's happening?
Well, I don't know. It didn't necessarily bother me. It just, I don't know. Something about this movie felt, and to be fair to him, I think it should in a way feel this way to me, like kind of like unpolished. It felt like a guy learning his way into filmmaking, which, I mean, it was his first big hit. So it's not necessarily a big knock, but I think people kind of gloss over some of the, like, I actually thought at some of these shots and then some of the editing, like there's a lot, he used a lot of fades in this and like things that just felt like distracting. I don't know. I didn't like the cinematography particularly. It took me out of it. And then there were some beats that felt like they needed to be forced in there in order to make this story work. Like the fact that we didn't even talk about the guy who kills him, the opening scene where the kid that he didn't help killed him. And it just so happens that this kid that he helped that kills him has the same wild affliction.
That's not coincidence at all. That's built into the story to be that way.
Well, no,
the only reason he's a ghost is so that he can help someone with a similar thing.
No, okay. I know, but
right, sorry,
like,
I misunderstood
there are two kids out there in the same city that Spruce Willis finds that can talk and see ghosts.
Well, one he found, or one that was brought to him as part of his career, and one that the universe brought to him by making him be a ghost in this kid's vicinity. I don't know. To me, it makes perfect sense. Like if you're the whole crux of your ghost argument that ghosts exist because of unfinished business, then it makes sense that they gravitate towards the things that they have unfinished business with, like his wife,
I guess also
like the kid.
The same similarities. Like he was like, they're both divorced, and like it's essentially carried the same affliction in like a very similar way. I don't know. It felt a little cheap to me personally. It did. And then there was some scenes that just like did make sense to me, honestly. There was this one scene where this couple is buying a ring and they just linger on it, where he's like, oh, I'm gonna buy this plain ring. She's like, oh, for your plain fiance. They didn't add anything absolutely like to the overall story. It was almost like this like comic relief. I didn't think
the wedding ring thing was like, that had everything to do with her wedding ring at the end of the movie. Like that there's a story involved in objects that you put great value on. Whether or not you think it worked that well is totally up to you. But yeah, I think it was intentional. It was definitely a comic relief to some extent with the guy and his wife. Yeah. But the story that she's telling about stories existing around objects, like that's also like, I mean, you see that in Hill House, that Netflix show in Hill House, talking about, you know, the things like the value you impart on things being what ghosts are.
But what she was hammering home is that when people die with an object, they have their it's like the story is like built into them and it carries around. But I didn't see that like her thesis, what she says, didn't carry over particularly well with anything within
that explains why she would hold on to the ring. She's keeping him close to her, and he is actually
that's what made him realize it.
Yeah.
That's literally the point where him seeing that ring, his ring dropping out of her hand. There's no reason she would have it, except it all came together for him because of that item. So I think that having some importance hinted at earlier on.
But see, then doesn't that come into conflict with like ghosts around because they have unfinished business? It's like, are they tethered to an object, or are they here because they have unfinished business? Are those like two conflicting?
It's both.
Are those like two?
No, he's not. It's not that the object is involved with his unfinished business. It's his wedding ring, which they go through great lengths to set up as being the neglected part of his life, whereas his work was the primary function of his life. And his whole thing at the end was him saying, you were never second. You were always first in everything I did, whether or not that's true, or you think that's evidence of that.
Doesn't that conflict with his whole overall unfinished business? He didn't spend any time with her.
That's
he spent
part of the
all
unfinished business.
fixing
That's
his
the unfinished
kid.
business part.
Yeah.
It's him telling
her that she was never.
But she
never
was.
Yeah.
well,
Even
not in his heart. That's
even
the
in
whole
the
thing.
unfinished business, she was secondary.
Not really. I mean, that's
All of his focus went to fixing a child and not his marriage.
no. He spent a lot of the movie he spent around his wife as a ghost. That wasn't an accident.
I disagree. There was one more thing. Shit. That like really bothered me. Kind of stuck in my craw. I know. God damn it.
And your rating is
There was something
I
for me.
know.
Yeah.
It's because Randy keeps bumping in. You know, that's what it is.
totally.
Randy always
Totally.
cuts in.
You have no control.
I'm gonna give this one a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's good. I think it has a huge cultural impact. It didn't have as much impact on me later. It's hard with knowing the twist. I think he's made better movies. I think Split is a better movie, especially within the horror. I think he's like kind of honed it in a scotch. But yeah, 3.5. It's good. I think it's maybe a little overinflated. But yeah. Bob,
All right.
out of 5, what are you going to give 6 cents?
4.5. It's a
Really?
solid ass movie. I think it holds up very well. Even though that like we've been so inundated with movies that have just been ripping this one off. It's been parodied. People reference it all the time. But it still holds up. Like after 20 years of just like dealing with I see dead people, you can still put this movie on and it holds emotional weight. It's got some decent scares. I think it's very well written, very well acted. The performances specifically are the best part of this movie. I mean, the reveal, I mean, it's going to hit you once and then that's it. Like you're never going to be surprised by that again after you see it the first time. But the performances are going to hit every time because they are just that good. Hats off to Toni Collete and Haley Joel Osment as a kid, fucking killing it. One of the best child actors I've ever seen on screen. You really feel like that family dynamic, man. Like the mom wants to help her kid so bad, and she just believes that he's lying to her. But in reality, he's telling her the truth, and she just can't believe it because it's wild, right? So you just feel that tension, and you want to help them, but obviously you can't because you're a viewer or whatever. It's a solid ass movie, man. I don't think it's luck. I mean, if you get a hit that is this big, there's always going to be some sort of element of luck because you can make a phenomenal movie, but if nobody sees it, then you might as well just not have made it, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's always going to be an element of that, but I think this is genuinely a well-written, directed, and acted movie, and that takes a lot of skill and preparation and talent. And I think Shymalan has that despite him making 50% shitty movies, basically. I do think he has it in him, and he's going to make more good movies. Not all good movies, but I'm sure he's going to make some more good movies.
Maybe.
He's batting a tidy 50%.
A tight 50, yeah.
Which
yeah,
is not
50-50.
great.
No.
Well,
not
it's really
great.
good for me and Bob, so
Yeah, good enough.
The highs are really high and the lows are rock bottom,
Yeah.
baby.
Lowest I've seen.
We one of the many things that Justin and I were talking about after watching this movie was the only one that is middle of the road for us anyways, this is a matter of opinion, is The Village. It's
Yeah.
like pretty decent.
Yeah.
You know, everything else is like on either side of the fence. Anyway,
I'll agree with that.
that's 4.5 from myself. That's going to put our aggregate at a 4.25. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment and see what the critics and users think about The Sixth Sense.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, ladies and gents, what we are going to do here for the Rotten Tomatoes segment, if you knew, is I'm going to give everybody here a chance to guess within the best of their abilities what the aggregate score is on RottenTomatoes.com for both critics and users. And users. We're going to start with the critics score, as we usually do. It has 159 reviews, so take that factor into consideration. 159 reviews. Let's start with our guest, Danielle. Danielle, what do you think the critics would give this film aggregate-wise?
I'm going to say, oh man, when did they review it? Like recently?
It's an
or,
assortment.
You know?
Let me see. I'll see.
I mean, you don't have to. That was kind of like a thinking out loud.
Oh yeah, I guess that's. I don't know.
You're like, I don't know. I'm going to tell you.
I just try to help. I'm a helper.
I want to help you. You're our Bruce Willis in real life.
Don't say that.
Okay, sorry. I'm going to say just a good old 76%. Just a C plus.
76. All right. Yeah, C plus. There you go. 76%. Let's go to Bob. What do you think?
I think it's higher than that. I'm going to take an 82, please.
82%. All right, Soju, what are you feeling?
I think it's gonna be bloated out the asshole. Honestly, so I'm gonna shoot high. I'm gonna go 96.
96. Ooh, that's a good year. Let me see. Quick braining here. Do some braining. Okay. So Bob, why don't you give yourself a pat on the back? You're going to take it for the critic score this week. You were only 4 off, the certified fresh score being 86%.
Project?
86%.
Can I get a hell skeet?
Bob, I will give you a yeet mesquite mash.
No. That's not what I asked for at
This
all.
bit
Oh, really?
is never
You didn't get
old.
what you asked for?
Continue with the game.
Yes, Randy.
All right, let's look at a negative score, randomly chosen because they're usually funnier. Having to open up, there's all of them on the main page are positive. Let's see. Another could have been film, another almost successful compromise, another intelligent flick done in by its misplaced and worn out star. So I guess this person just really hates
Spruce
Willis even more than me.
Spruce?
Yikes.
Wore
He
that Willis
wasn't
out.
worn out in 1999.
Yeah, he still has hair at this point.
Yeah.
He was at his peak.
Yeah, his widow's peak.
Well,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, we're talking Die Hard. That was in the 80s, but I mean, or was
But I
it
mean, he was
not?
still riding the
Ghosts,
peak.
see some ghosts. Sorry.
Which is funny because when I imagine Die Hard, I see him as having like a worse hairline than he had in this movie, which is like 10 years later when he had hair.
Hair plugs, baby. There's a reason he went full bald all at once.
I guess.
Didn't like that male pattern. Can't blame him. All right, 250,000 plus ratings of audience score. 250,000 plus. Holy shit. All right, we're going to go in reverse order this time. Soju, what do you think the audience gave this film?
I think it's going to be lower than the critics. I do. I don't. I know you guys are creaming over it, but I think it's going to drop its go. So I'm going to take the 69 dudes.
Ooh, I got to find the bump.
69 dudes.
There it is. You're welcome. It's all very procedural now. Pop, your turn. What do you think out of 100?
I think it'll be higher still. I feel like it'll be pretty close to the critics, maybe a little bit lower. Just give me my 82 again, please.
82 percentile. All right, fair guess. Danielle, you're our last one. Here we go.
I'm going to do opposite as Soju the first time and say this one's probably bloated because of the memes and, well, I guess in the 90s and 2000s it wasn't called a meme, but the jokes, the parodies, people probably still love the shit out of it because of those. So I'm going to say 93.
93%. Another good year. Danielle,
Yes.
give yourself a hell whatever you think is best because you're going to take it this time.
Hey, Danielle.
93%.
Yeah?
Hey!
Ooh, is that Bob's? Did I get his?
No, you got the red.
Do you
the
want
normal.
Bob's?
No,
Is
you
that
don't.
you let her choose what she wants?
You're going to get the Randy.
Rigatoni.
There you go. So the actual score being 90%, 90 percentile.
Oh, I was going to pick 90.
So I think that's a pretty fair score based on our revelations here. You know, 3 people with a pretty high score and 1 person with a slightly lower score, I think it about evens out to that.
I remember what my one more critique was that I couldn't think of my score.
Too late.
Go
Hang
for
on.
it.
Ran out of
So
time.
he says he
No
does the
critiques
whole-
to be accepted.
He does 2 scenes, or I guess it's the same scene, where he's talking about the stuttering Stanley and he's talking about how he knew what the school was before or whatever, especially the stuttering Stanley scene, where it makes it seem like he has been conversing with these ghosts, because how else would he know the stuttering Stanley situation if he hadn't talked to a ghost? And yet it seems like Bruce Willis is the one who's like helping through all these informations, and he's too scared to deal with ghosts before Bruce Willis shows up. And yet he has all this information that ghosts are giving him, specifically like the stuttering Stanley situation, which means at some point he's become comfortable with some ghosts, which means that would almost like help them move on in some way if he's at least like treating them like a normal person or like getting information from them. I thought that was like a slight slip up there.
Does anybody else want to address that? Because I can, but I've been talking a lot.
I don't really care. Let's just move on.
Yeah, he's the ghosts talk to him, not thinking that he's who he is. The ghosts talk to themselves. When he sees them, they're all over the place saying all kinds of shit. There's a reason that he knows Latin, and it's not because he's talking to them. It's because they talk as ghosts, and he can hear them. That's my read on that.
All right.
It's totally time for
Anyway.
trivia.
Woo!
Oh, cool.
It's totally time for trivia.
Juice. Lay it
All
on us.
right, we got some good trivia today, and I picked out some that I can turn into a saucy little game here. So I'll save the Wahlberg one for last because we need to do a Wahlberg side discussion here. But so I'm gonna do a little game. The Sixth Sense was the second highest grossing film in 1999, taking about $293 million in the U.S. And $379 million in other markets. That's not super important, but it was the second highest grossing film in 1999. I want you guys to guess what was the highest grossing film in 1999 that bumped this one. So I'll start with Danielle. Danielle, what is your guess for highest grossing film in 1999?
I think I know the actual answer, so am I not allowed to
No.
guess? But I don't know for sure.
Go ahead.
I'm pretty
you want me to
sure.
pick you last?
Yeah, pick me last.
Randy, what do you think it is?
I feel pretty confident in this answer. The only thing that could go wrong is if I have the year wrong. But I believe it would be episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
All right, Bob,
That was the exact guess that I had.
Danielle. What do you
I am guessing The Matrix.
The Matrix. Okay. Anybody? Okay. So the answer is actually, according to this trivia, Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Oh, you guys are so smart.
I would have
You
guessed
saw
The
people
Matrix
gonna
too.
die?
Actually, Danielle, when I read this, I was surprised. I was like, wait a second. But
I got
it
a
makes
clip
sense,
here of
family.
Jar Jar.
Yeah, maybe more family. Maybe more family.
Fan favorite Jar Jar.
This is the first of several horror films that would establish Toni Collete as a scream queen, says this trivia. She would go on to appear in this trivia mentions 3 high-profile horror movies. So I'm going to let each one of you guess one. Danielle, do you know one other big horror movie that Toni Collete was in that could establish her as a scream queen besides this movie? Just one.
I don't really know much about Toni Collette other than Hereditary, and that's too late. So,
Well, I mean, no, any horror film that she's been in, essentially.
oh, well, then I'm going to steal Hereditary because I don't know.
Hereditary. Randy,
Smart money's on
Can
Hereditary.
you guess a second one or another one that might be correct?
The only thing that's coming to my brain is not a horror movie, and it's Little Miss Sunshine. I'm having a hard time coming up with one.
It's kind
I
of
think
a
I might just have to pass.
horrific.
There's a little some horror in there, but it's a dark comedy. I'll pass because I just don't have a name. In mind.
Rob?
Krampus.
Krampus. So the 3 that are mentioned are Fright Night 2011, Krampus
know that.
2015 and Hereditary 2018. So ding-a-ling to two contestants. Rob is in the lead with 2 points. There you go.
Whoa! We have never scored before. Congrats on being the first champion, Bob.
Although Cole is supposed to be 9 years old, Haley Joel Osment was not 9. He was a different age. Let's guess what age he actually was. Rob, I'll start with you first.
11.
Okay, Randy.
I actually think this is going to be the opposite of what it is usually, which is it's usually a little bit older. So I'm going to go younger and say 9.
No.
Wait, sorry, you said 9. Sorry, I meant 7. 7. I'm sorry. Sorry, I got my numbers inverted.
I also think he's younger just because I mentioned he's so freaking small.
Uh-huh.
I'm going to say 6.
Okay. Rob with another ding-a-ling. He was 11.
Damn.
What? He's so freaking small.
Wow.
Little baby 11-year-old.
Yep. Cole, the kid, and Vincent both have a physical trait in common. So there's something physical about them that is similar to like link them, I guess. Can you guys guess what it is? I'll let Randy go first.
I think I definitely know this answer. So should I go last? I want to give others the chance to guess.
Sure, you'll go last.
Okay.
Danielle. Do you know? Can you guess?
The only thing I remember about old Donnie is that he was in his underwear. But
that is a trait that they share at some point in this film.
yeah,
Underoos.
Underoos.
Fruit of the loom.
I don't know. I got nothing.
Rob, do you have a guess?
Fruit of the loin.
See if Randy can.
Eye color is my guess.
Randy, what do you think it is?
I'm pretty sure they both have gray patches of hair.
They do. So Randy's 2. All right. Yeah. So they do. Cole and Vincent both have a patch of gray, white hair, both on the right side of their heads. Vincent's is to the side and Cole's is behind his ear. All right. I think that's all trivia except for Wahlberg. So last trivia, and then we can do a little tangent here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm excited about this.
According to director M. Night Shymalan, Donnie Wahlberg lost blank pounds for the role of Vincent Gray. How many pounds did Mr. Donnie lose for this? Randy, I will let you go first this time.
Yeah, this will be a total guess for me. I don't know what he looks like before. I only know his more recent photos where he's an older man and he's a little meatier. But if he was a New Kids on the Block, he was dancing his ass off all the time. So I got to think it wasn't that much.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 45 pounds.
45. All right.
That may be a little
45 pounds is a lot.
No, I'm a fat guy, so maybe it's colored by that.
Okay. Danielle.
He was pretty small in this movie, but I feel like he's a small dude anyways. But I feel like if they made it a point to make him like really skinny, it was a lot.
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to say like 60 pounds.
Okay. Ooh. And Bob.
I'm going to go with the old 69 pounds.
60, 69.
69
And
dudes.
Randy said, what'd you say? 40.
I said 45.
45. Randy almost with a ding-a-ling. 43 pounds he lost for the role of Vincent Gray. So there
I got to stop rounding.
Yeah. That was a good little trivia, guys. Good job.
Yeah.
That was good.
Lots of good stuff.
Oh, Wahlberg. So
yeah, wasn't that I was going to say?
During this movie, we were watching it with Rob's boo Alice, and she started mentioning about the the Wahlberg restaurant,
Wahlburgers,
Wahlburgers,
which we did not know existed.
I didn't know existed.
Really?
And
that's a bigger twist than this fucking movie.
Randy, did you know that this existed?
Oh yes.
Okay,
oh, yes,
so you and Danielle both knew. This was news to Justin and I.
Yeah, I've
And
watched
there's
the
a
show.
reality show about
Yeah,
it.
I've watched the show and I've bought the burgers. So
And it's 10 seasons worth of reality television.
95 episodes. They were 5 episodes away from syndication on Wahlburgers, the reality television
And for
show.
some reason, they just didn't make those 5 extra episodes.
Also,
This shit literally fucking killed me, dude.
I pulled up out of curiosity some clips of the show on YouTube, and we were watching them after we finished The Sixth Sense, and it was all fairly uninteresting or whatever. But I noticed that the logo for Wahlburgers,
Somebody's wearing a hat.
yeah, and it's a little W. It's like a hand drawn W, and it looks like just a dangling nutsack.
It just looks like balls.
It looks like balls just hanging there.
Pull that shit up right now and see that looks just
It looks like balls.
All right.
When Bob said it,
Wahlberg.
like the scene was still up where the dude was wearing the hat, and I took one look at it, and I lost
Oh, yeah.
my
Yeah.
I literally couldn't breathe. That shit was so funny.
He had to leave the room and
I had to
collect
leave
himself.
the room.
Man,
the
that is
fucking balls, and I thought, oh my
Rob,
god,
Looks like balls.
Rob, how hard was your fucking your need to go in there and just scribble in a wiener on the top?
I did it. We've been doing it. We were like, how can we turn this
I know
into
you
a
too
straight
well.
chilling joke to make a fucking t-shirt out of this shit?
I fucking know you too
It
well. It's not
looks
cool.
like fucking nuts.
I drew like 3 or 4 different versions trying to see what looked best. Like if it was like a JW or like
Or
a
C.
CW. Like, how can we make this look like the full package?
Oh my god,
Rob is
that-
literally Jonah Hill in Superbad as a child. That's
true.
Rob's
That is
entire life.
a little fun
That
fact
defines
about Bob.
Rob. Yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Oh, that shit killed me. Bro. I lost my shit. Oh my god, I loved it
Yeah.
so much.
Who would? Side note: Is it? I can't imagine a sadder fate than finding yourself watching Wahlburgers in syndication. Thank God the world wasn't faced with that reality.
It's true hell, really. We barely missed it by 5 short episodes.
Also, there's a Bob Wahlberger we came to find out.
Bobby Burger.
Bobby Bergs.
There's 7
All right.
fucking Wahlburger brothers, by the way. There's
Yeah.
a fuckload.
Oh yeah.
Bob looks very sad in the show, so he
Oh.
needs a
Bob.
hug.
Yeah,
I
it
think.
seemed like his mom does not love him.
Yeah.
Aw.
Anyway, that's another
Bummer.
that's another episode right there.
So that's trivia.
That's trivia. Is there a Cooter in this movie? Like, if you guys have somebody you want to
yeah,
nominate, we'll roll
absolutely.
into it.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
all right.
absolutely.
We're talking
All right,
Cooter
let's-
of the week.
we got the mom.
Oh, sorry.
Straight chillin'. Cooter of the week.
Very important bump there. Sorry about that.
Oh no, I would 100% listen to that entire song if that was a song,
Thank you.
and by the tour shirt. But
Before we get into it, Danielle, we'll get right back to you. Juice,
No,
just
you're
go
fine.
ahead and tell us what constitutes a Cooter and why are we hunting him?
Well, Cooter is a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. Cooter has to hit 3 of these 5 points to be considered a Cooter. Danielle, do you want to see if you can knock out the 5 points?
I remember them from Anything for Jackson, but I forgot them, so no.
That's all
I had to write them down for myself.
Yeah, Randy
I've been doing
still
this for
doesn't
over 300
remember
episodes,
to
and I
this
don't know.
day, so it's okay.
Yep.
Manipulation.
It's like hunger or sadness,
Famine,
oh,
locusts.
pestilence, right?
It is manipulation, smug arrogance, sexual deviancy, overall looking attire, and overall patheticness. So, Danielle, you had a strong candidate in your mind. Who do you want to convict as Cooter of the Week?
I have a suspicion.
Okay, so the first one I said, let's put her on the side table, but the fucking little kid bully.
Tommy,
The little
Timmy?
bullies that put him in the closet.
Yeah.
Those are little mini Cooters, dude.
All right. Tommy.
I would have pushed, dude. If I was Toni Collete, I would have pushed them bitches right down the stairs. Oops, sorry.
All right. So
might
let's
even
see.
sawed their head off with piano wire.
What kind of
Yes.
points do they have? Is it the same kid who walks with him at school? Is it the same kid?
Oh yes,
No.
that's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh yeah.
So we could say manipulation.
For sure, manipulation.
He hams that shit
Smug.
up hard.
Yeah, he seems arrogant.
Arrogance.
Yeah, as fuck.
Arrogance.
Yeah, he's
in a commercial and he's very, very critical of the school play because of that.
Yes.
Let's see. No sexual deviance.
He's pathetic because he's a child.
True.
Children are inherently pathetic because they're not strong like
Can't
us.
do shit without me.
Oh, just try and feed yourself. You can't.
Okay.
You're a dependent, says my taxes.
Pathetic.
All right. Don't give Bob
You're a dependent.
any children.
That is so fucked up. That is super fucked up.
Does he have any weird look or attire?
No, he's a kid.
Well, he's a kid, so he's
What
ugly.
does he wear in the play?
He's ugly.
He wears he's the village idiot at the end. So
There
he
you
wears like
go.
a silly hat.
That's
He wears a
pathetic.
silly hat.
He is
It's pathetic that he refuses to read his lines correctly because he doesn't like being the town
He
idiot.
didn't. He didn't make it.
Being a bully is pathetic. He's a total fucking bully.
Oh, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, he's a little shit.
Security is pathetic, kids.
Locking up another kid in a fucking closet he's clearly afraid
Yeah,
of.
that's fucked
I
up.
think that
Yeah, dude, you
that's
suck.
pretty shitty, man.
Let's book this Cooter. Throw him in jail for life.
Yeah, lock this
Put
kid
that
up to rot.
Put that minor in the jail cell with all the other cooters. It's a good idea.
Oh, God. Keep him away from Jeremiah Sands, because fuck.
Keep everyone away from Jeremiah Sands.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So, Danielle, did you have any other Cooters? Anybody else got any other Cooters?
I would say the mom that poisoned her kid's a big cooter.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's a big old
First,
coot.
look in attire. Who wears red to a goddamn funeral
That's
for your
fucked up.
child?
Your daughter's funeral?
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, you might as well
the
be wearing
red
the
light
J-Lo
on?
dress from fucking the VMAs with
Yeah.
the giant tits hanging out or some shit. Like, what are you doing?
Damn.
What are you doing?
All right.
She's trying to run train after that funeral, dog.
She's going
She's got another
run
daughter
the
to poison.
train?
She's too busy.
Yeah, she's trying to procreate another daughter to poison.
Come on, ride that train.
Arrogance.
Choo-choo.
Smug
sure.
Manipulation,
arrogance,
for sure.
Manipulation
Manipulation.
Pathetic.
Manipulation.
Off the charts.
Yeah, okay. She hits pretty good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Even though
She-
she's
yeah, that's a
very
pretty good one. I didn't
small,
think of her.
Yeah, character, but yeah.
That's all I got.
She,
All right.
she
I thought
doesn't
of
have
that
any
as-
depth to counteract it, but yeah.
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 As soon as I started this episode, I was thinking of the Cooters, and I was like, ding, ding, ding. She's it.
That was a great scene because I felt so bad for that dad. That was sold.
Dude, he did great as an
Yeah,
like his
he
acting
did.
was really believable too.
He did.
It's good shit.
All right. Good hunting, Danielle. Thank you.
Nice. We rounded it
I
up.
wanted to skip over it because he can't manage time well, but
Yeah, me. I'm the one. Thank you.
Hold on, I have 10 minutes of something to say.
Hey, there's another problem I had with this fucking movie. Shymalan is a real fucking shitty actor. He's always got to put himself in all his fucking movies. Why is he doing it?
You
I'm
ain't
Justin.
Hitchcock, Sham.
I'm
You ain't
Justin. My
Hitchcock.
name's Justin. No, that's thanks again, Danielle, for helping us round up the Cooter of the week. Let's get into what we've been watching.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Hey, Randy,
Hey, Bob.
what you been watching?
Oh my, so much. I'm in fact going to have to like push off some of this because I've already taken up way too much time of everything. We watched, Becky and I watched quite a few documentaries this week. Just randomly started getting in a kick for that. We watched documentary. We watched the first episode of the QAnon documentary that's on HBO.
God bless you.
Which didn't give like so much more detail that I didn't already know, but I feel like I've looked into it a little bit already just because I'm very curious about what could make people so insane. And so yeah, I watched that. I watched Flat Earth last week, so I got to watch this week. I guess.
the QAnon thing was something that happened when I was in Korea. I still don't like know anything about it, so I'll have to check.
Well, you should watch the documentary. Yeah,
I really
it's
don't
pretty
know
informative.
anything about it.
It's maybe not as like at least the first episode isn't quite as indicting as I feel like it ought to be, but it's pretty informative. So I would say at least so far pretty informative. I also watched the college admission scandal, which is a newer Netflix documentary, which is just where you go if you are a bigot against rich people like I am, and you just want to be mad at them for an hour and a half.
Not for long.
That's what it is.
Republican Randy.
Yeah, I know. I'm about to be a homeowner, so I'm about to start voting red all the time.
Taxes?
No, it's
taxes, Randy.
taxes. That's what it's all about, baby. No, but the college admission scandal is pretty disgusting. I didn't know anything about that because at the time that was coming out, it was very much in the throes of the election season, and I was just preoccupied with all that going on. So it was good to get up to speed on that and get my my rage outlet filled. I watched one called My Octopus Teacher, which is an not environmental movie, a nature documentary about a filmmaker who is apparently incredible at scuba diving and can scuba dive for like 15 fucking minutes at a time. And he's in South Africa somewhere, and he befriends basically an octopus, and he goes and films it every day, and it's really, really heartwarming and good stuff. And I liked it.
I definitely thought that a complete opposite that was a hentai anime. So,
well, in fairness, Becky's opinion of that movie is very different, where she thought the guy was extremely weird, and like to me, it was like a guy and his dog. Like that's the kind of feeling I got from it. But she was like, "This guy's like having an affair with an octopus, right?"
Did he let the octopus lick peanut butter off his nuts?
No, but it did attach itself to his chest a few times. So you take from that,
lick peanut butter off his Wahlburgers.
Oh my!
Perfect.
I also watched another heartwarming documentary, which don't be fooled by the name, don't be thrown. It's called Crip Camp, which is about a summer camp in the 70s. I think it was 70s, maybe 60s. Late 60s, early 70s, something like that. That was for kids with various disabilities, which is close to my heart because I worked at a camp like that years later, which was, I don't know, 2012, 2011, around there. And I actually went to that camp as well. And so it's like something I really like am positive about or whatever. But they also like went on to this group basically became the front leaders of a civil rights movement for disabled people. We were talking about Willowbrook last week with Chris. I think it was Chris from Phoenix.
Yeah.
And that it ties into all that because that stuff came out around the time that they came back from camp and were becoming adults. And at least one of these women that went to this camp became like the Secretary of Health and Human Services or something at some point, I think for the Obama administration or something. But anyways, it was really, really interesting stuff and very moving and I don't know, it was very great. It made me well up. It was nice. Rewatched Godzilla 2014 in preparation for a movie we didn't watch this week.
Sorry.
I'll leave off with this, which is I watched a YouTube channel or two of them really, called Scammer Payback and Jim Browning. They're two YouTube channels where these guys basically, they field calls or they call into these overseas scammers that scam old people out of their fucking life savings and shit. Damn. And they just trail them along and then they hack them back and then they fucking like blow up their shit. Not literally, but like they know these guys' names and they're freaking them the fuck out. And it's Schadenfreude to the T. It's great. And it also, obviously, they turn in information to the police and shit like that. So a lot of these guys get shut down.
That's cool.
One guy literally like pinpointed where these guys' offices were, Jim Browning, and he gets like, he takes over their cameras and is watching them scam people and shit.
Damn.
It's nuts.
That's
what he can do.
Damn.
Yeah, it's vigilante justice done mostly right. And I approve of it. It's good stuff. I'll leave it at that and talk about other stuff later.
Solid. Hey, Danielle, what you been watching?
To keep on subject of Shamalama Ding Dong, we just finished The Servant Season 2, and it was not very good. But I mean, the first season was just really good. And it
50-50.
It was I mean,
maybe season 3 will be great.
He's consistent.
Yeah.
But season 1 was really good. It was a super build-up season, so I kind of was ready for the second season to be like, here it is. Here's the twist. Here's the like conclusion. And then it just kind of kept going and
kept twisting.
Kept going. But that show is gorgeous and it's like on Apple TV. So of course it's shot like really, really well. And old Rupert is in it from Harry Potter, but he's alcoholic with a cocaine addiction, so it's nuts. But
whimsical.
Yeah, he's a little different in that show. But we finished that, and then we're rewatching Game of Thrones, which, whatever. We've watched it 4 times, so that's just what we do.
That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
That's too many.
My husband only rewatches things. I can't get him to watch new things. It's like a weird thing. He can't watch new shows.
It'll happen to you.
But I did go on a girls' weekend trip with my best friend this weekend, and I showed her all of the Annabelle movies. And because
You guys had a pillow fight?
yeah.
Justin's the Cooter of the week. Here we go.
Justin's a Cooter of the week every week from here until forever. Sometimes the darkness gets back into you.
If you talk about too many cooters, you become one.
Heard
He's
that.
the Loomis of Cooter hunting.
I have to think like a cooter, you know.
Get your ass away from there.
Hey, Donny, lose some weight.
Get into my van. I'm
There's
Justin.
a nut sack on your hat, Donny.
Such a nuts.
It's just balls.
It's just ball.
Sorry, Danielle. Please continue.
Oh, that's it. I showed her all the Annabelle movies. She's not a horror fan, so she was like, okay. It was mostly for me to rewatch them, I guess.
There you go.
So you spent a weekend abusing your friend. We got it.
Yeah, basically.
Heard that.
But that's all. That's what I got going on.
Cool. Juice, what you been watching?
I watched that documentary too. The one about colleges. What was that called, Randy?
College admission scandal.
Yeah. And one thing I just want to point out from that, the premise is essentially for a time there was this one guy facilitating it, but a bunch of just rich people bribed schools to take their kids, to accept their kids.
Under false pretenses.
Yeah, as like to accept them as athletes when they weren't athletes at all. And this one guy facilitated it. One chick was the chick from Full House. Who was with Uncle Jesse's wife or whatever.
Aunt Becky.
Yeah,
and William H. Macy's wife, Huffman.
Yeah.
She was also in prison for a time.
It was such bullshit. And one thing that I don't want to harp on it too long. One thing that I like, one of my favorite quotes from the movie, they're talking to all these different people. And one was he was this guy, and he was like, people just like to rail on, or some people like to rail on affirmative action. But he's like, statistically, when you consider that, you have to have SAT scores and ACT scores and this testing and things that go into acceptance into these higher end schools, a lot of it favors, richer white kids because they can hire these private college coaches. They can hire this private SAT training and stuff like that. And he was like,
through legacy wealth.
Yeah. And yet here these people are with all the privileges in the world, and yet they still fucking cheat to get into these fucking schools. Like, you have all the privileges in the world. A lot of it too, like fucking the Full House's chick daughter, she had a YouTube channel. It was popular.
She's a influencer on fucking Instagram and making money off it.
They tried to sell her as an athlete, which never was there any video of her ever being, so just fucking sheer stupidity. And she's on there saying like, I don't want to go to school. My mom wants me to go to college. Like, I'm making all, like, she had this deal with this makeup company.
She wanted to quit high school.
That's how popular she was. She had like a makeup deal, and they were trying to bribe in that she was a fucking athlete. It's like, how stupid are you motherfuckers? Like, goddamn, that shit pissed me off.
Rage porn, man.
Yeah. So, anyways, there was that. I watched the Snyder Cut, which is 4 hours long.
Oh, God. Is that more rage cut? Rage porn or no?
Necessarily, because I do appreciate they cut it. It's 4 hours long. They cut it into like 6 sections. Like, it's literally like fades in like part 1, part 2. So I watched that shit like over 4 days. So it was like, watching small bits, and that was fine with me. And I will say it was better. It was more cohesive. It was a more consistent tone with his other movies. And the thing is, I don't really care that much. I was fine to watch it. I don't want to watch it again, but it was interesting to watch. The thing I like about it, though, it was a sad situation that he was in, Zack Snyder. he made Man of Steel. I liked Man of Steel. I actually legit really liked Man of Steel. I hated Batman vs Superman, but he made that too. And he was working on a trilogy, and his freaking, he was caught up in a tragedy. His daughter committed suicide while he was making this film, and so he had to back out. And then as soon as he backed out, they hired on Joss Whedon and cut that shit. It's a completely different movie. It's baffling how different it is. Completely different. I'd say that in all honesty, it's completely different. And you know what? A lot of people seem to like it, and that made me feel good more than anything, because I did think it was better. 4 hours is nuts, but when you break it up an hour at a time, it's okay. I just really like that people like it, and then he got to do it. That made me feel good, and so I was like, you know what? Good for that guy, because I felt real bad for him and everything, and it just, I don't know, seemed like a win for him. So,
sometimes a Snyder just needs a win.
I don't know, if you're interested, I don't regret watching it. It was interesting. It was interesting and better. It was better. But if you don't like superhero stuff, or you didn't watch it or what, it's not essential to see, but I found it interesting and overall liked it fine. So yeah, I watched that, and I don't know, we're running some time. I'll cover other stuff next week. I've been talking too much. Bob, what you been watching?
I checked out that Tread documentary that you recommended, Randy, on Netflix.
With the tank.
That shit is insane.
I gotta check that out.
About this dude in the Midwest that buys a huge bulldozer and fashions it into a tank and drives it through the middle of his town and just rips shit apart. The tank is so impressive. It's so much more impressive than I thought it would be. I thought it'd be real shittily thrown together, but they're trying to blow holes into it to stop him, and they cannot do it. They can't do it.
He welded himself into it.
Yeah, there was no hatch. You couldn't open it. You had to blow a hole into it.
Wow.
It is. He took
Do you have food in there?
Well,
no, he didn't. He wasn't coming back.
Yeah, you just gotta watch the documentary. He took steel, 2 plates of steel, and put concrete in between them, and that was the walls that he surrounded himself in.
How did he breathe?
It's a whole. Well, you gotta watch the documentary. Okay. I want to get. I'm not gonna explain everything, but it was pretty mind blowing. It's called Tread. It's on Netflix. Check that shit out.
Damn.
Also revisited Miss Doubtfire because it's just a fucking classic movie. I love it.
Yeah.
I didn't realize somehow that this was directed by Chris Columbus. From Harry Potter and Home Alone fame and Goonies, Gremlins, all this shit.
I didn't realize that either.
Yeah, I did. So I don't know. It's just another banger that I can add to the Chris Columbus list. And I saw this random headline this past week. He was saying that there is an R-rated version of this movie out there.
I saw that.
Release the Columbus cut.
I need the Columbus cut. I actually don't.
If we've learned anything from Snyder, it's that if you whine loud enough, the studios will make money off of you.
Yeah, it's the movie's fucking great as it is. It is so funny. It never gets old. I love Miss Doubtfire. The last thing I want to mention real quick is I revisited the Psycho remake with Vince Vaughn.
The good one.
Vincent Vaughn.
Yes. Yes.
I hadn't seen this
nothing I'd ever smelled before in my life.
It was like nothing I'd ever smelled before. I hadn't seen this movie in just years. It's been so long, and I forgot so much about it.
Not long enough.
Speaking of William H. Macy, he's the detective in it. I forgot about that. It's pretty bad. It is pretty. It's probably worse than I remembered it being. Actually, it's very, very difficult to take Vince Vaughn as
smug ass face.
I can't
try. This is me biting my tongue, but I agree so hard.
I can't take Vince Vaughn seriously in this role at all whatsoever. He's got this very forced little giggle that he throws in between his lines, and it's just stop doing it. Stop. And later in the movie, it's in full color, which is one of the very few differences from the original. And you see him as Mother dressed up, and he's got a blonde wig on, and it's high comedy. It's anything but scary. Whenever they do, the famous shower scene, how are you gonna improve upon that? You really can't, and they don't. They fuck it up. You've got
Do they show Yabos?
Not really. Maybe very briefly.
It shows Vince Vaughn jerking off.
Yeah.
That's true.
Limited nudity, but they intercut these So the classic shower scene is it's like 83 cuts or something like that, 90 cuts. It's a shitload of cuts, and they do a shitload of cuts in the remake, but they also like splice in rolling clouds and like hills and shit that
to the shower scene.
Yeah, it's just it's in Nevada, so it's just like landscape shots of like Nevada and shit like that. It's just landscaping, and it just like it pulls you out of the kill sequence and totally fucks it up. It's like this is like the most iconic scene in the original, and you're just taking a steaming pile of shit on it right now. It's not very good, but I had to revisit it for some reason. I just wanted to. My thoughts on...
You had to revisit it for some reason. All right.
Well, there is a reason, because I watched Freaky and Vince Vaughn is the killer in that. I was like, oh yeah, Vince Vaughn also played a killer in this fucking terrible Psycho remake. Let me revisit it and see if it's still bad. It is.
Be prepared to be bedazzled.
It's still bad. That's why I just didn't want to go on a tangent. Okay, that's all I've been watching this week. We got one more segment to get to. It's our Hotline Scream. If you are listening and would like to call and leave a voicemail, hit us up at 904-638-3231. Also, we have a bump, and here it is.
Hotline Scream.
Yeah, we got 5 voicemails this week. I think first up we're gonna hear from Tom. Let's hear what Tom has to say.
Hey, Straight Chilling crew. This is Tom. I've got so much to go on about since you guys just reviewed Wicked City, but I'll answer the prompt instead with kind of like a mixed thing. So, if you were to rent anime from Blockbuster, probably the first thing you rent is Akira, then maybe Ghost in the Shell, but the third thing you would rent would probably be Ninja Scroll, which is also by the same director, Yoshiaki Kawajiri. Wicked City is not going to be remembered today by the modern anime fan, but at the time it was something definitely got saw at a lot of times. It's not really a favorite of anybody. It's not nearly as the action isn't as good as Ninja Scroll, and there are other things out there that are weirder, but it's definitely something that it's remembered. I don't know, fondly remembered, but remembered certainly by several people in the anime community. If you want to check out something similar to this, that does not have the level of violence or sexual violence, if you thought this was like a cool movie, but you don't want to see something like as rapey as this, check out another movie by the same director called Demon City Shinjuku, which is basically the same movie except there's no rape in it. So yeah, alright, talk to you guys soon. If you ever have any anime questions, just hit me up.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, some good tips there.
Yeah, I
good
think
advice.
I'd rather watch that Demon City Shinjuku. We watched the first time I watched it with Mikey, and he thought that's what this movie was. It's like, oh, I thought we were watching Demon City Shinjuku or whatever. So
that makes sense.
I accidentally watched Ninja Scroll when I was a young wee baby girl. Accidentally in the middle of the night on Spike TV, and it scarred me. So,
oh boy,
is there a lot of rape?
Spike
in that
TV is
one
not
too?
meant for that age.
yeah.
Oh no!
Yikes.
it is.
I was like, this is anime? No, thanks.
That makes me feel significantly better about the anime world because it doesn't remember Wicked City as fondly as I thought that they did.
Yeah,
I agree. It's good to know that it's sort of like a B-rated like anime. Like, yeah, you might get to it eventually, but it's not a classic necessarily.
Rob was judging you guys.
Yeah, me.
Rob specifically was judging.
Yeah, only me. I'm the only one. Nobody else was. Thanks for calling in.
I have a daddy kink.
God knows I do. Thanks for calling in, Tom, and sharing your expertise with us on the subject. And next up, we're going to hear from Brandon. Let's see what Brandon has to say.
Hey, crew. It's Brandon from Canada. I'm just calling in for the prompt of the Blockbuster rentals. Unreal rental on the Toy Story 2 game there, Randy. I mean, fantastic game. My brother and I played that quite a bit. But the other one that we rented almost every weekend for the N64 was Army Men Sarge's Heroes. Where, yeah, you basically run around as the old, like, green army men you get from the dollar store. And yeah, it's just an awesome game, puzzles in it, fighting, and it's just a good game. We played it all the way through. So, yeah, that was that game. Another thing I wanted to ask was, I have a crazy idea. So my wife and I are expecting in August. We're having another boy. And we're thinking of names. And, I mean, some of the names you find online are just bizarre. So I came up with the idea, hey, why don't you boys think of some names? Each of you shout out a name. And I'll film it or something and run it by the wife and see how she takes the names that you guys can come up with. Anyways, I'll catch you on the next episode. Excited to hear about Godzilla vs. Kong. I'm super excited for that movie. So, yeah. Anyways, zippity yeet to the skeet, boys.
Whoa!
Nailed
you got
it.
a fusion dance going.
He worked all three in there.
I appreciate the
Nice work.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Army Men.
Dude, that game's so much fun.
That game is dope.
Yeah.
It's good shit.
Yeah, so as far as names go, my initial thought was, let's name your son, which I'm assuming his last name is Brandonson.
Hang on, there is a caveat to this email. We got a follow-up message sent saying that since leaving this voicemail rather, they're having a baby girl, not a baby boy.
Oh, well, that kind of fucks me then. I was going to suggest Jeremiah after Jeremiah Sand.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, don't do that. Either way.
Jeremiah's a great name, though. It legitimately is a good name. He was
a bullfrog or a cooter, so not great.
I was going to be vain and just say name it after me, Justin, but you could name it Justine. Do it.
Name your daughter Soju.
Say yes. Do it. Justine. Yes. Do it. Yes.
Soju. I'm assuming your last name is Brandonson. So, Soju Brandonson.
Name her little baby M. Night.
Ooh.
M. Night.
Mm-hmm.
Since I'm the only one who's saying a name, I'm going to win. Justine. Yes. After me. Yes.
How about Clarice?
You want to. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Clarice Darling.
Clarice Darling Brandonson.
Little baby
That's
Buffalo.
Darling isn't even the right name.
You only get one guess.
Baby Buffalo Bill.
No, you don't. Okay, there are rules to this. We never have rules.
Danielle, would you like to submit a name?
Yeah.
Well, Danielle, of course.
It's a
there
good
you
name.
go,
Yeah,
Justine and Danielle.
It's a good name.
I already have a goat named after me, so.
There you go.
Oh, really? So it's an upgrade.
I always like old lady names, and I'm being serious actually. Like Matilda. Like old
Gertrude Brandonson.
Yeah, like I don't know why, but that is like legitimately my.
That's because you got a granny king.
My go-to. I love granny horror movies. I'm into granny horror.
Well, you and M. Night, buddy, you got something in common.
Mm-hmm.
You're into.
I ain't got nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah. Choose one of those. Just call her a Stain. Little baby Stain.
Stain.
Just
hey, Stain, clean your room.
Clean your stains.
In tribute.
Meaning your body, because your name is Stain. All right. Brandon, we probably didn't help you out there, but
one of us
best you, Danielle.
That's you and your burgeoning family. We hope everything's going well for you, man. Teach your kid how to play some Army Soldiers, because that shit is super fun.
And introduce him or her to Sixth Sense at the appropriate age.
Indeed.
11.
Right.
11.
Name your kid L after 11 from Stranger Things. That's a good name.
Sure.
Next up, we're going to hear from Kelvin. See what he has to say.
Hey, what's up, Straight Chillin'? It's Kelvin calling in once again. I only have two things that I can remember about Blockbuster. And the first one is, when I'd go in there when I was younger, I'd be like afraid of some of the movie cases. One in particular that stuck out to me was like the Butterfly Effect movie case design. I don't know why. I guess when I was younger, it was easy to scare me, I guess. And two, I lived in Puerto Rico for a short amount of time, from 2001 to 2003. And when I lived there, I visited a Blockbuster. And in the Blockbuster, I met famous like Spanish rapper, Yandel. He was just browsing, looking for movies to rent and stuff. But it's crazy because that was like when he was just starting, and now he's like this, sensation of the reggaeton music. And I thought that was pretty interesting. Back then, he was just like kind of not as well known as he is right now. But yeah, that's the only thing I can remember. But anyways, hell yeet. Yabba Dabba. I think that's the one for Randy. And I don't have anything for Rob. But appreciate you guys and have a lovely rest of your day. Keep chilling.
Yabba dabba doo. All right. That was a good one. I like that.
Fantastic.
I don't know much about reggaeton, but that's pretty cool. I like that. I also think this is kind of a good prompt for next week even. We could extend this because there are also horror movies that I saw in Blockbuster that freaked me out, just a case alone.
Yeah.
And for me, it was actually weirdly Silent Night, Deadly Night freaked me out a little bit. And The Silence of the Lambs freaked me out a little bit.
Mine was Wishmaster.
Wishmaster. Okay, yeah, that's good.
That one scared the fuck out of me.
A funny one that freaked me out that is absolutely pleasant and is not scary whatsoever was that French film Amélie, where she's so pale and her
is she okay?
Yeah,
is she doing
so
okay?
Pale. And she's got this grin on her face, but she's so pale and her hair's so dark, it's creepy.
It's not your fault. Nobody knew what a manic pixie dream girl was yet. So.
Well, and there's also, I posted the name on it. I had found it and posted it on the Slack. I can't remember the name now. It was this Japanese film that had a bunch of crazy spirals on the front.
Uzumaki?
I think so. It's got the crazy spirals, and it always like kind of freaked me out. I was like, "Oh, what the
That's
fuck
a
is that?"
Junji Ito adaptation, which I have not seen yet.
Yeah, so
The cover for Jason Goes to Hell always fucked me up with a mask.
Dude,
with a
weirdly,
worm
that was going to be my third thing. That's crazy.
I remember that freaking me out.
I remember being like, this has a curse word on it. Because my house, hell was a curse word.
Dumple a hockey stick.
They're saying things they're not allowed to. I'm not supposed to see this.
Thanks for calling in, Kelvin, and
Republican Randy,
telling us how you met famous people in the Blockbuster. Next up, we're gonna hear from Kyle. Let's hear what Kyle has to say.
Hey boys, this is Kyle. Calling about two things. One, blue collar jobs, and two, the favorite video we had at the rental stores. So first, I am a low voltage security systems technician specializing in commercial applications. Not very glamorous as it sounds, but it's a good profession. Also, I don't have a specific favorite movie that I used to rent from the video store. We actually didn't have a Blockbuster. We had this little mom and pop called Flick Video. And every time I go in there, I specifically remember I'd always go in there for some kids movie. I was very young. And every time I go in there, they would have this Chucky doll on the back wall. And, it was like past 4 or 5, one of the 4th, 5th movies because he's all tore up. He's got needles in his head, stuff like that. And I think remember every time I go in there, I would just be so freaked out and then couldn't sleep when we come home. But I used to love going in there every time. But yeah, that stuff used to freak me out. But yeah, when rentals were still out, I was still a kid, so I don't have any specific memories. But I do remember that Chucky doll every time. But I'm just calling to tell you guys that. All right, bye.
Dude, I had a
nice.
Flick videos too.
Really?
Maybe I remember there being. I think maybe we know the same one, so
Out in
Justin, because I know what area of town you're in. Yeah,
yeah.
So I feel like maybe that was a smaller chain or something. But
yeah,
that thing with like Kyle's a true horror fan because he just said that every time he would go to this video store, he would see this and not be able to sleep, and he loved going. Yeah. So you got cred, Kyle. I'll give it to you,
dude. I used to do low voltage work too, Kyle. That's some sweet shit. You got a made guy.
Made in the shade. Thanks for calling in, Kyle. Hope everything's going well for you. Last but not least, we're going to hear from Chris and see what he has to say.
Hi, Straight Traveling Crew. This is Chris from Phoenix again. Just got done listening to episode 311, Wicked City. I got to say, I was a little disappointed. I saw episode 311, and I was really looking forward to hearing the contributions of good old Ember is the color of your energy stains, and he was nowhere to be found. So I was a little heartbroken about that. But anyways, I wasn't calling to contribute to Wicked City. I've never seen it, and historically for me, anime puts me to sleep more effectively than washing down 2 Percocets with a 40-ounce bottle of fine malt liquor. But anyways, I did have a question. I was curious of something. As I've been listening to the shows, you guys are really proficient at sound drops, and I think sometimes you would put some morning zoo radio shows to shame. So I've been wondering, when I listen to the shows, like, where do you guys get inspiration for the format of the show? Like, what kind of podcasts or radio shows do you guys listen to? I would be curious to know. So anyways, great job with the show. I really enjoy it, and talk to you later. Bye.
I love that call.
Yeah, Randy's chub.
Yeah, so as far as the bumps go, that's my purview. And really that whole thing just comes from actual morning zoo shows. I've never really listened to them. Like, certainly not. I don't know any names of anybody, at least, except for Bubba the Love Sponge, because the ads were on all the time. But, yeah, I just kind of think that the sound bump thing is really stupid and funny, like just really, really stupid. And actually, somebody, I also saw that they do it on like Tim Heidecker's podcast. They do it, and I think it's really funny. They're much funnier at it than me. DJ Dugbound is much smarter and better at this than I am. But I appreciate the kind words. Our format is pretty slapshod. Like, we just kind of fell into this, I would say, right, guys?
Actually, no, I would say we built it from shitty scratch over 6.5 years.
I guess I meant organically. It kind of arose, is what I was getting to.
A lot of it was like just offhanded jokes, like Bob's Blues, and
I mean, yeah, a lot of it did come organically.
Yeah,
the original, like when we sort of revamped the show back on episode like 62, 63. I listened to like a handful of other random review shows and like took shit that I liked and cut out shit that I didn't and sort of made like a generic outline. And then we just kind of grew from that. And it evolved over the years for sure. And like we came up with the Cooter segment and Blu-rays and
evolved implies that it got better.
I mean, we've added, grew.
Like legit from the earliest episodes I can remember. We've always done that Rotten Tomatoes segment. Always.
Yeah.
So that's
I think maybe Godfather Jack brought that to the table initially.
I think so. And that was, I mean, if we didn't do it from the very beginning, it was like by episode 10 at the latest. We've like
it was the first attempt we had of adding any sort of format to the show besides a bunch of dudes talking over each other.
We dropped news. We wrapped up Bob's Blu-rays. We've lost some segments for sure, but
yeah, we did the Bracket of Blood for a while. That was a segment on the show.
Yeah,
we were doing that.
What was the other one? It was
Where did Bob go wrong? Were he and his friends sifting way too long through those Blu-ray bins? And it gets worse. He'll have no jet ski, wasting all his dough on those DVDs.
That is in fact the greatest segment to have ever existed on this show.
Yeah, I'll agree to
that. Maybe.
Own it, Bob. Like the jet ski you don't own.
Randy's just our Bubba the Love Sponge, basically, and that's all you really need to know.
That's the most insulting and accurate thing you could say in this moment, I think.
Randy the Republican Sponge. That's
just soaking up Republicans? What do you mean?
We used to use like legit bumps, but then we worried about getting sued.
I used to cut them out of like movie trailers and shit, and like, you know, if we were doing a Vincent Price movie, I'd find a bunch of random shit that Vincent Price said and use that. But yeah, after
a lot of people send some in, and I also
maybe we should just source them from our own.
Then the man beat us down.
The fucking man.
That's what led to this abomination.
I love being incontinent.
And this one here.
Oh, interesting. European style.
Yeah.
I'd be stroking.
The bumps have gone through their own transformation.
It went
They've devolved.
It went from 69 dudes to 69 dudes.
69 dudes.
There you go.
The way that emphasizes dudes really makes it sound like it's talking about a collection of men.
69 dudes.
That's a lot of dudes.
It's a significant number of dudes.
It's too many dudes.
Thanks for calling in, Chris. Again, if you guys are listening and you would like to call and leave a voicemail, let us know what VHS or DVD or Blu-ray box cover sitting on the shelves at Blockbuster or your local mom and pop rental shop used to fucking scare you as a kid. We want to know. Hit us up at 904-638-3231. Danielle, again, big, huge thanks for sitting in with us this episode. It was really great having you on again. And would you like to remind people where they can find all of your spooky doings one more time?
Yeah, thanks for having me. I always have fun with you little fellers. You three dudes. So my spooky doings, I do with old Ghoulish Media. We are ghoulish.media on Instagram and at Ghoulish Media on Twitter. And then obviously ghoulishmedia.com, where you can find all of our editorials and stuff. And then I am She Spooky on everything for my own spooky doing. So you can see my animals and my Scream collection that just keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. That's what I do. That's what I am.
50 copies of Scream.
I own 4 copies of Scream.
Not enough. Buy.
And 2 vinyl. Yes.
Awesome. Yeah, check out Danielle. Check out all things Ghoulish Media. We're going to be back next week with another show. As always, we will actually be reviewing Godzilla vs. Kong this week. So slam your eyeballs into that. That's going to HBO Max as well as a theatrical release, so you can get it pretty easily. Get ready for next week's show. Until then, hit us up on Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. We're on Twitter at STR8_podcast. straightchillingpodcast.com, yada yada. Just contact us for sure any way you can. Until next week, as always, all you mother truckers, please keep chilling.
Ha ha!